This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Books the colors of a bright elation stolen in the side of love. We are, we're just children fighting our way around indecision. We are rather helpless, dangerous forever, whisper to me.
Hello and welcome back to Blockbuster Rewind number 5. I am Scott Shifflett, taking over for the hosting duties from my co-host Andy Atherton. Andy, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good, Scott. This is great, man. I am very psyched for you to steer the ship tonight because this is your month. We do the little rotation, so you're leading ship. You came up with the topic. It's a topic very timely, and I am very excited to talk about it.
And we'll get to that topic in a minute. Let me bring in my other co-host, Eric Eells. Eric, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing just fine. I'm very happy to be talking about horror this special time of year.
And as usual with these shows, we have a co-host, a special guest, sorry. And the special guest is the PTBN podfather himself, Scott Criscuolo. Welcome, Scott.
Mr. Shifflett, it is an honor and a privilege to be with you and Mr. Eells and Mr. Atherton. It is October, one of my favorite months of the year, which is funny because I haven't dressed for Halloween in, 13 years or something, but I love October, and I am honored to be here because one thing I like to talk about, maybe almost as much as I do wrestling, is horror movies. I'd like to think that I'm kind of, I don't want to say an expert, maybe an idiot savant, I don't know, but I do love the horror genre, and I'm pumped about tonight's topic because it's one that I really have never talked about before, so I'm excited.
Thanks for coming on. And as we've alluded to with this, I chose a horror franchise this time, and it's a franchise near and dear to my heart. It's my favorite horror franchise. It's the Scream franchise. Scream 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the extra movie that we added on was I Know What You Did Last Summer, and we'll talk about Scream 1 and 2 in the first half, and Scream 3, 4, and I Know You Did Last Summer in the second half. So before we kick off, has everyone seen the movies before?
Going into this, believe it or not, I actually had only seen the first 2 Screams.
Really?
I did not see Scream 3. And I did not see. I got to be honest, I was cynical about Scream 4, regardless of the fact that Wes Craven did direct it, and Wes Craven usually doesn't direct garbage. But I didn't go see it because I was very cynical about needing a fourth one. The third one I just never got around to see, and then I never owned it, believe it or not. So I had not owned this franchise until like a month ago when I got Scream 4 solo on its own, very cheap. And then they just came out with anthology of the first 3, which includes 2 documentaries, which is a great Blu-ray get for me as a collector. So, but I did see the first 2, and that's why I was excited about doing this because going into the latter half of the franchise, I was going in cold, and I was given some opinions about the fourth one, which I'm looking forward to talking about later in the program. But yeah, to answer your question, I only going into, being asked to be on tonight, I had only seen the first 2. So,
Andy,
yeah,
what was your history of it?
Yeah, I've seen them all. I've stated I'm not the biggest horror fan. I think it's more that I'm not into certain horror. Like, I'm not into most slasher. Like, I've seen some Friday the 13th. I've seen some Nightmare on Elm Streets. I've never seen any Halloweens. But there are certain horror movies that are just great movies on their own. And even regardless of Scream are great movies for the most part. I mean, there are some peaks and valleys as we go through the franchise. I think the only one I may have seen in a theater was Scream 4. But yeah, I love the first one. The second one is just as good. Third one has some, I mean, it's not all bad. As a lot of people think it's the weakest part of at least the original trilogy. But yeah, I'm a fan of the series, and will watch them if they're on cable.
That's good. That's good. Eric, what was your history of it?
My history is I'm a fairly big horror fan myself. I've watched certainly stuff like Friday the 13th when I was very young. Always enjoyed it. Never really got too scared much. I just seemed very desensitized early, honestly. But I certainly just enjoy the creativity that the genre brings in the various films. And certainly I was very familiar with Scream. I mean, it's literally the horror film. Certainly, if not defined the 90s, then certainly the back half of the 90s for horror as a influencer. In fact, I still have the first 3 Scream movies on VHS, which I used for my rewatch.
Oh, nice.
So, and Scream 4 was a movie I only seen recently. I felt like it was a little later on, a little too late to come back to that. I felt like its influence had kind of passed, and it didn't really seem like it's something I'd be interested in. But I watched it, and I have some thoughts for the show.
Well, that's good. We will get to those thoughts. I'll give you a little background on my history with Scream. I saw Scream 1 for the first time with my parents on VHS. I watched half the movie with my hands under my eyes, and they would make me take your hands down or you're going to go to your room. So I was like, I got to stay up and watch it. So I would watch that. And the same with the second one. The third one, I was 12 years old when it came out, and I did not find it scary at all. And the fourth one I saw at midnight release in college. So that's where I was with that. I even dressed up as Ghostface one year for Halloween. One of my last years of dressing up as Halloween, I had that mask, and everyone else had that mask. So, it got to the kids that weren't supposed to see the movie that were dressing up as Ghostface. So, and it's just always been one of my favorites. I've seen a lot of horror movies myself, but I just always keep coming back to Scream. So to get us started, the first Scream came out in 1996. As Mr. Criscuolo said earlier, it's directed by Wes Craven, written by Kevin Williamson. It starred David Arquette, Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, Matthew Lillard, Rose McGowan, Drew Barrymore, and Steve Ulrich. Movie starts off with a bang. What did you guys think of seeing the first time with Drew Barrymore's character being killed 10 minutes into the movie?
Oh, this was a big deal because Scott probably remembers this as much as I do. But everybody thought Drew Barrymore was the star of the movie, and it's very rare that such a big character gets killed off, or a big actor gets killed off very early in a movie. We didn't really see that much for a while. I mean, the closest one I could probably think of is Charlie Sheen getting killed off very early in Young Guns. I mean, but yeah, it was shocking because she was all over the trailer, all over the movie. She's front and center on the movie poster, and it was shocking. I mean, it redefined the genre. I mean, in a few ways. One, it was such a good movie, and it was like, it wasn't looked down upon like other horror movies are because for schlock and all that stuff. But I mean, to kill off this huge actress in 10 minutes into the movie was a big deal.
Scott, what did you think?
Well, I was excited in the beginning because just to give a little background, obviously, if you're a big horror fan, the early 90s in the genre was kind of a barren wasteland. The 80s were the glory years of horror, and being slightly older than you guys, well, except Andy. The 80s were all about Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and to a certain extent, Halloween. Halloween literally had like a 6-year gap between 1982 and 1988, between 3 and 4, and 3 doesn't really count because it was a season of the witch. So say Halloween's 2 and 4 between Michael Myers movies. So, but the 80s was the golden age of horror, and but by the 90s, the slasher genre kind of lost its vigor. Friday 13th finished in 1993, technically with Jason Goes to Hell, and then of course The Leftover by 2002, Jason X. Wes Craven, as coincidentally, finished up the Freddy run with his new Nightmare in 1994. Halloween was kind of hanging on by a thread, but it had some very questionable films in the 90s. Well, one questionable film, and then they kind of got a renaissance after this came out, and I think that's a big deal. But most of the early 90s of horror was direct-to-video crap, really. I'm trying to remember that Christopher Walken trilogy. What was that movie? The Prophecy. Those movies are god-awful. Maybe the first one's not bad, but the rest are just...
The first one's very delightful.
Yeah,
it's
the rest
the devil.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The rest of it's just direct to video trash, and a lot of stuff in the early to mid '90s in horror was mostly, direct to video junk, like the Phantasm franchise. I mean, everything after the second one is absolute crap. Absolute crap. So when I knew that this was coming out and it was a Wes Craven movie, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. It's a franchise. It's something new for him. All right, I'm optimistic. Screw it. Why not? And then I realized Drew Barrymore's in it. I'm like, oh, this is different, because let's be honest, most of her, what was her hot movie? Or Poison Ivy? Really, what was she doing in most of the 90s? Not much. So getting her was a big deal. I like Neve Campbell because she was cute in Party of Five. So I was excited. And then the weird part for me was the killer jumps right into the beginning of the movie. Like usually a horror movie starts with a scene, darkness, a lot of music, the credits maybe, camera angles, and then somebody dies. Or like Jaws with Chrissy Watkins. It's the middle of the night. Something eats her in the ocean. You don't know what the fuck it is because you don't see the shark for like an hour and 40 minutes. But here you've got a star, bona fide star, because getting Drew Barrymore was a pretty good get because she probably needed it. And then immediately you hear the villain, which is very weird. And then the next thing you know, she's hanging from a tree with, her fucking guts hanging out. And you're like, whoa, huh? Now what? So I smiled, I remember, with the people that I went to the movie with. I smiled. I'm like, oh, Wes Craven is actually going to take the genre that he helped revolutionize and actually re-revolutionize it. I was very impressed, and I was looking forward to the journey from that point forward.
Yeah, well, Drew Barrymore at that time, though, Scott, she was going through her wild child phase, I think. That was like, she was getting on the desk on Letterman, probably flashing them.
Yeah, exactly.
She was transitioning out from being like a child star and more into a grown up, and she was being wild. Luckily she turned it around and, has become like a really good actress, real fun, and her talk show is dog shit. But other than that, it was like I said, it was shocking. Go ahead.
Just like her movies for most of that decade were dog shit.
Yeah.
Leading up to this, Poison Ivy, she was hot and half naked in it. Yeah, fine, that's not me. But everything else, we could go to her discography or her filmography, and it's just one piece of shit after another after E.T. So
thankfully she's got the wedding planner coming up after this, or the wedding singer.
Yeah.
So
this definitely helped her, even if it was only 12 minutes or whatever.
So, Eric, do you have anything to add?
No, I think Scott said a lot of it, but it certainly can't. He certainly was right about these early '90s being kind of a dredge of such. But no, the opening 10 minutes certainly set the tone for the movie, and it's a really good balancing act if you look at it, because it's setting up the metatextual tone of it, commenting on other horror movies, like characters who know about other horror movies and such, but also being, building a lot of tension, like as things go on with the scene, with I guess it's just Ghostface. That's the voice of the phone. You pretty much just assume is just called Ghostface, which is very good. It builds up the tension, like with the boyfriend outside and like playing the game and such. and like, oh, you got it wrong. But all leading up to the attack, and then her eventual kill, which is very brutal. I mean, very brutal. But no, it's really it works. It sets things off on a great path, so you don't know where it's going to go from there.
So after Drew Barrymore's body is discovered by her parents, we skip to we meet our final girl for the whole series. Spoiler alert: Sidney Prescott, and her boyfriend Billy Loomis comes in, sneaks in her bedroom door, and tries to pressure her to have sex, which doesn't happen. And then we skip to the next day at school because Sidney Prescott and Billy Loomis are in high school, and we meet the whole crew. We meet Tatum, which is Sidney's best friend, and she is also dating Stu, who's one of their friends. We meet Dewey Riley, who's a cop, who's Tatum's older brother, and Randy, who's basically the nerd of the group and in love with Sidney. And you meet Gail Weathers, a reporter. So did you guys immediately hook on to any of these characters? Because I personally hooked on to Cotton Weary, who you found out from Gail's talking to Sidney that supposedly murdered Sidney's mom a year before. So I always found his character interesting. Did you guys hook on to any of these characters from the onset?
Yeah, I certainly was one of those people who enjoy Randy. He's certainly I would say half of the audience like love him or hate him, but I certainly enjoyed him.
Yeah, well, Randy's kind of our narrator kind of thing. He is in the story, but he's also kind of like telling the story a little bit because Billy and Stu. I love Stu. Stu is great. Billy is creepy as shit. I mean, he's just shows up and just yeah. And
yeah,
I mean, Tatum is one note, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, the way Ninja was talking about his relationship with Sales, like when we started out hot and heavy, it was R rating, leading up to an NC-17. It's just like wow, just too much right there.
Yeah, and Randy is a little bit of a jerk though. I mean, but yeah, he serves a purpose in these movies, which is needed, I think, because he kind of makes sure the audience is up to speed at times when they're not, possibly.
Yes, he certainly has several memorable, loud moments in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, did you latch on to any of these characters?
Well, Jamie Kennedy is one of the oddest looking human beings on the planet. So he kind of looks like a fucking alien. I mean, he's got this giant head with these weird eyes, and he looks like an old Filmation Batman villain or whatever. It's just a very strange. He kind of looks like the Mad Hatter, to be honest with you. He'd be a good Mad Hatter if they ever used him in a movie. But for someone whose favorite franchise is Halloween, which is complete antithesis of Andy. How you never even seen the first one is totally beyond me. But the Jamie Lee Curtis to me is the prototypical survivor in the history of horror franchises because she's the face of the franchise next to Michael and Donald Pleasance, I guess, but mostly her. I guess you can consider Heather Langenkamp as the face of when you talk about the holy trinity of survivors, because Friday, every movie was different. Every survivor was different. So the holy trinity of survivors will always be Laurie Strode, Nancy Thompson, and Sidney Prescott. That's the faces of the survivor girls. And when the one I jumped on first was Sidney, was Neve Campbell, because she's the one that you're going to want to. She's supposed to be the one you want to latch onto. So you wanted to make sure you were invested in her, like you're immediately invested into Jamie Lee Curtis and Heather Langenkamp, and it did for me. I'm not the biggest Matthew Lillard fan. I kind of wanted to deck him, but he's one of my more annoying people that I've ever watched.
He's calmed down in recent years.
Yeah, he has. I said this to Andy. I think it was Andy I said it to. When I watched the first one, I go, what the fuck ever happened to Skeet Ulrich anyway? Like, oh yeah, I forgot about that guy. He's one of those 90s guys, you know what I mean? But yeah, Sydney definitely. And probably Gale, because that's a type of character that you don't think about at first. She's one that to use wrestling terms, kind of goes from heel to babyface as the franchise progresses. In the first one, she's just out for herself in the story. I think when Sydney decks her in the first third of the movie, I think that's when I realized, all right, I think Nev Campbell can latch onto this character and roll with it. So, but definitely her, because again, Halloween is near and dear to my heart, is my favorite horror movie franchise. So I've always loved Jamie Lee Curtis and Laurie Strode as a character. And so my expectations are probably kind of unreasonably high, and that's a fair assessment. But I latched on to Sydney first because she needed to be like her if this franchise was going to, or if this was just going to be a floppy late 90s trash movie, or if this was something that was going to sustain. So for me, it was Sydney.
Well, Scott, that brings up a good point, because as you said, with like latching on to Sydney, with her being like, the Laurie Strode of this, she's attacked in her home and by Ghostface, and is able to call the cops via 911 on her computer, which in 1996 is just amazing. That was revolutionary to me.
Mm-hmm.
But and then Billy ends up showing up at her house around the time when the Ghostface killer is there. He is arrested, and then later that night, Sydney gets a call from the Ghostface person with the voice changer saying, you fingered the wrong person again. So it casts shadows of doubt that Billy may not be the killer, because the real killer's already calling her. She's being stalked by this killer. And then we go back to the school. There's a nice chase scene in the school where the killer's in the bathroom at Sydney, and like she has to slide underneath him, like she's stealing second base to get out of the door. And then we meet Henry Winkler, who's the principal, and he has a pretty fantastic kill. What'd you guys think of that murder?
That's a sharp set of scissors that man had. I mean, Principal Fonz was kind of a dick.
He was kind of a dick. Okay.
I think Wes Craven Wes Craven got flack for that, actually. We had a special on one of the channels I work for, and he was like, people were like, you killed the Fonz. He goes, no, I didn't kill the Fonz. I killed the principal of the school. I mean, they did a great homage in Scary Movie where they cast a guy's named David something, the guy who played Squiggy, as the principal there, as like, a Happy Days Laverne and Shirley connection. But yeah, that was a pretty fantastic kill. I mean, he kind of screams like you and him well.
Yeah,
and also
there's that visual of the killer as you see through his eyeball as he finishes him off. That's a good shot.
It is a good shot.
It was, and before he gets killed, he opens the door and he yells at a janitor, and the janitor was Wes Craven wearing a Freddy Krueger sweater, which I thought was a nice little cameo.
Fantastic.
It's a little much.
And his name was Fred too.
Oh, I did.
His name Fred or whatever. I forget. Yeah, but his name is Fred. Yeah.
So after this, they have a lockdown of the town. School's canceled, and then we have the obligatory party at the at Stu's house, and that's where the kill counter starts to go up. At this time, we discover the rules of horror movies. And before we get to those, I want to see if you guys knew what they were beforehand. Did you guys know the rules of horror movies? Because this movie explained it to me. Scott,
No.
Did you know the rules?
I did. When you watch enough of them, you definitely do.
Yeah, I knew some of them too. I knew the whole, because from the ones I did see, I have seen in my, usually it's like right after you have sex, boom, whatever, a character changes or does something for the better, they're in trouble. never be alone or say I'll be right back or whatever. Yeah. No, it was, one thing I did notice too, though, is during this rewatch, these movies take place in short spans of time. Like, they move fast because it's only like a day or two that most of them take place in.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, so the rules that Randy says at the party is never have sex, never drink or do drugs, which is ironic because they're all partying there and assume having sex at the party, and never say, I'll be right back, as Andy alluded to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So then the party disperses because everyone's drinking and everything. You see that Gail Weathers is there with Dewey, and they are canvassing the scene, but Dewey's trying to mac on Gail Weathers, which, give a little spoiler alert for you guys. I remember reading an article that said in the first Scream movie, Courtney Cox and David Arquette were flirting. In the second movie, they were having sex. In the third movie, they were married. So, in the fourth movie, they were divorced. So, it's just amazing to see, this relationship grow, but it always just made me laugh every time seeing it with, Dewey trying to mac on Gail Weathers, and she's just trying to get her story. But then they have one of the what I think is when we get done, what I think is the best kill in the whole movie is with Rose McGowan's character getting killed. What did you guys think of that?
I liked it. It was a little silly. The fact that her body held up on that garage door going up. But I liked it. I liked everything leading into it. I liked her fighting back against Killer. With the Dutch angles, I don't know why. I enjoy when they're close-ups, all those weird Dutch angles starting up before he attacks her. But no, it's certainly the most memorable kill of the movie, for sure.
I agree.
Yeah, it was very creative. I mean, it's very, you say they're all, but it was a very calculated kill list. I mean, it's not random at all. I mean, there were so many drunk teenagers that could have been offed in the process of this party, but, they were very, as we find out who the killers are, very, designed to get to their final objective.
Yep, and as we said, towards the end of the party, Billy shows up. He was uninvited. He shows up, and he finally has sex with Sydney. And then Billy is killed by Ghostface, and the killer chases Sydney around the house, which I will say one good thing about these series is they have good chase scenes. They have it in the first one. Most of them include Sydney because the Sydney one in her house was very good. This one in the house as well, she gets stuck in the attic and then falls on a boat, which is pretty good. And then you see Gail's cameraman get killed. And then this terrified me for years. She hides herself in Dewey's car, and the killer goes underneath the car and somehow unlocks the doors and is able to get in through there. That terrified me as a little kid. I don't know if it's possible, but it was just terrifying.
Well, he had the keys.
Yes, that's right. That's right. But it terrified me as a little kid. And then Sydney runs back in the house. She's limping and everything. Randy and Stu run up, both saying the other is the killer. Sydney has the classic line, which I said is "fuck you both" and locks the door. And then that's when the big swerve comes. Billy comes and falls down the stairs. He's full of blood and everything. Randy gets in. Billy says, "I think we all go a little mad," and shoots Randy. And then we find out that Billy and Stu were the killers. What did you guys think of that twist? Did you guys foresee them being the killers? First off, Scott, we'll lead with you.
No. I thought Cotton Weary was the killer. I think most of the movie led to that. But Stu, I had a weird feeling because he just acted weird in the movie. Billy, absolutely not. And kudos to Skeet Ulrich for really, pulling us along until the reveal happened. So, but a lot of things were, when we get to the wrap of the movie, I'll get into the whole rules that weren't followed either. As much as we were hearing about horror movie rules, some were not followed. and Scream kind of broke the mold in a lot of ways. But yeah, I was stunned. I'll be honest. I thought easily it was going to be like Cotton Weary, like he was going to break out of prison or something. Like they were going to use that trope, kind of like Halloween with the mental hospital. But when I found out it was them, I was pretty stunned.
Andy, what did you think? Who did you think the killers were before?
I mean, I
They were
suspected
revealed.
Billy, and like one thing you didn't mention, we thought Billy gets killed because once Sidney finally gives up the goods, to Billy, the Ghostface comes in and we think he gets killed, and then Billy, we see him stumbling down and he does do that classic line. And Randy, figures it out, like just a hair too late, and he's like, "Oh shit!" And then, Stu was a great reveal too, because once you realize it, and then you're like, "Oh, that's how," your brain starts to catch up to your eyes, like what you're seeing, and Stu's like, "Hey, Sidney," kind of thing, surprise. And no, I thought it was a fun reveal. Poor Kenny. Kenny just gets sliced. I mean, and we didn't mention that this is like peak Courtney Cox hotness. Between this, I mean, she's still hot in the second movie. After that, but this one she is like really hot, and she's foul mouth. I love hot foul mouth. She's like a close second to foul mouth Christina Applegate in terms of just the way she uses it. Kenny, get the fuck off my car! I just love that. But yeah, I honestly can't remember the first time I saw it, what my initial thoughts on the killer, but I do think I probably would have suspected Billy and probably Cotton, because we didn't see Cotton enough leading up to this. We only had really seen him on, police on TV reports. So yeah, he was that killer that came from Sidney's past, possibly, if it was him.
What did you think, Eric?
I don't know. Trying to go back to when I first saw it many years ago. I never really thought anything about Cotton. I think they pretty much just established that, he was in jail, and that they start to build up possibly that all these crimes are connected, that he might be innocent. It's amazing, like, for a character, like, comes much more important later on. Like, there's only like just that brief shot TV of him, like Liev Schreiber. I'm like, it's almost funny they just keep the same guy. Now we know that, like, Liev Schreiber's a very good actor. The Billy thing is definitely something that played throughout the movie. Like, he played like two ways. You're like, he's just really aggressive about getting to his girlfriend's pants, and then later on, like, just moody about being accused of things. Especially like in the video store scene with him, Randy, and Stu, where like Randy just calls it shot, like he just suspects him like right away and calls it. But it could easily be played like two ways. Like, he's just, he could be the killer, or he just be like mad about everything that's happening to him, being railroaded. But we never talked about there's this thread about Sidney's father. Like, he's very much played as a red herring, largely throughout the movie. And as we know, it's like he's intentionally being set up by Stu and Billy. So I guess it just sort of leads to Billy. Like, you just sort of think about him. He's always at the fourth run of my mind. He's always thinking about like what's he involved, how's he involved with all this. I didn't really expect Stu.
Yeah, it was quite a shocker. And as Eric said, like, the red herring is Sidney's dad, because all this is taking place on the 1 year anniversary of Maureen Prescott being murdered. You find out that Billy and Stu did this, actually killed Maureen because she was cheating with Billy's dad, and this made Billy's mom run away and leave town. They're going to put the blame on Sidney's dad that he went crazy and killed everyone. They even do this crazy scene where they stab each other, and
I love that scene.
It's
Me too.
It's just amazing because like they have it all planned out, and they're like not too deep, and like you can see like they're both psychotic because Billy stabs Stu, and he's like, that's a little too deep. So then Stu just, I've never been stabbed, don't want to be stabbed, but it seemed like he stabbed the hell out of him. So And while they're doing this, Sydney's able to turn the table on Billy and Stu. She calls them and says she's calling the cops, and it leads to a funny scene where Stu's talking to Sydney on the phone because Sydney's hit, and he goes, "Did you really call the cops?" And she goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "My parents are going to be so mad at me."
Mom and Dad is so mad.
That's very funny.
I mean,
That's like,
Matthew
that's
Lillard is like the all-star of the end, I think, in my opinion, because like you said, with the whole stabbing thing, like you could see like the look on his face. He goes, "Oh, I'll go right," and he's like, "Oh, he's going to go into business for himself, so to speak." But he's like, his great lines. He's like, "I'm feeling a little woozy here, man. I think I'm dying." He's like, and then when he discovers the gun is gone, he's like, "Houston, we have a problem here, man." Yeah, he's just awesome in the end of this movie.
And then Gail shows up, and she had wrecked her car, and they thought she was dead. And Stu even says the line, "Well, she looked pretty dead to me." And then, tries to like save the day, but has the gun on safety, and Billy incapacitates her and was like, "We'll worry about her later." And then Sydney's able to get the jump on everyone. Sydney kills Stu. Billy's still alive. Gail shoots Billy, and then Billy pops up one last time, and Sydney puts one between his eyes to put him down finally as the final jump scare. So that is the end of Scream 1. We also find out Dewey, I left this out, who'd been stabbed earlier. He somehow survives, and I read that he was originally going to die, but test audiences loved him, so they decided to keep him alive. So after the first movie, you have the big four, quote unquote, still alive, which is Sydney, Gail, Dewey, and Randy. So before we go to Scream 2, what did you guys think of Scream 1? And what was your favorite, as we might have already answered this, but what was your favorite kill of the movie? Eric, you can lead off.
As I think about it, it's certainly a game changer. It's certainly like helped reinvigorate the genre for the rest of the decade, and was like the influencer for like the next 5 years until like between the American adaptations of Japanese films came around, like 2002 with The Ring, and then eventually like Saw with the torture porn thing. Like so many movies were influenced by Scream, including even H2O, like Halloween, which came out after this, since they're both Dimension movies by this point. This movie's put out by Dimension. It's not brought up, but it's a real risk on this movie's part. It's that old advantage, that quote, "Never show a better movie in your own movie." And the back half of this movie is very much at times scored to Halloween because they're playing it in the background. And in fact, it's still on TV when it's shoved on the Stu's head. That's a very dangerous risk, but this movie pulls it off. So,
Scott,
it might be the best kill, Stu.
Okay. Scott, what did you think?
Well, Andy, I guess you technically did watch the first Halloween since you watched Scream. So guess what? You got bailed out of having to watch it. Big wimp. My favorite kill, I think I liked. I'm brain farting. Why am I brain farting? Tatum's death. Tatum's death is my favorite because killed with a garage door. That's kind of badass. This was a game changer in many ways because we sit here and talk about horror rules, and that's what the whole movie was about. But whenever are there two killers? Never. For a guy, particularly director, whose sole killer is arguably one of the most iconic personalities of the 1980s, you get two killers. And it's not a main killer and a sidekick. Both guys at some point put on the Ghostface. That's two killers. That's not a killer and a sidekick. That's two killers. That's unprecedented. Absolutely tremendous cinema for a horror movie, particularly when you're doing your best to try and repaint the picture of the horror genre which had fallen on hard times, and you've got a director who saw it at its zenith, and then when his franchise ended, he saw it start to slip. So I've always, and God rest his soul, he passed away 5 years ago, but Wes Craven always knew how to reinvent himself. I mean, if you go back to The Last House on the Left in 1972, which was on the video nasties list. Special relations guys will like that I mentioned that. The guy knew how to push the envelope of great horror. All the credit in the world to Wes Craven for changing the rules while telling us the rules. It's amazing cinema. And it kickstarted the horror genre again by reinventing it for a new generation. Because you take a Party of Five girl, and you take, the Friends girl, and you take, I don't know what you could say, David Arquette, the guy would eventually be WCW champion. Maybe he wouldn't have been if he wasn't on Scream. Who knows? But and then you take, and I've always Skeet Ulrich is like the Silverchair or the of 90s movie actors. Like, that fucking guy is 90s with his hair and his look and the way he talks and his fucking flannel. He's like the one-hit wonder guy of the 90s, Skeet Ulrich. And you're like, that to go along with a well-written story which would grow over time. I was very impressed. It was a well put together movie, and I would definitely put it in my top 15 of my favorite horror movies. I think the more I watch it, the more it'll creep up into the top 10. And I applaud everybody that acted in it. And that includes Drew Barrymore, even though she wasn't in it very long. She pulled the ripcord and got things going. I don't know. I think it was just a well-shot movie. I can trust Wes Craven to not make a piece of garbage. And Kevin Williamson wrote a great screenplay. So kudos to this one. It really shook the industry when it needed it.
Yeah. I think Drew Barrymore, having grown up in Hollywood, kind of understood, what it meant for the movie if she signed on just to get killed off in the first 10 minutes, I think. I mean, she knew what that would do for the movie and how the stakes would be raised and keep the audience guessing the entire time, I think was very important. I liked the Stu kill, although it's a little unbelievable that, dropping a TV on somebody would electrocute them like that. I mean, my favorite kill in the whole movie probably is the principal, because it's just, you probably weren't expecting the principal to get killed, in these movies. You don't, it's usually the teenagers. It's, Kenny was collateral damage. He's at wrong place, wrong time. I mean, his kill was pretty cool because it was very sudden. And he affected, Gale, ability to get away with the blood on the thing. Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I think Matthew Lillard is my MVP for the movie, just for the end. I mean, because he's like that high school douchey a little bit, and then he, is like the cool guy having the party, but then like at the end, he, the thing about the killer too in this movie, or killers, is they weren't just focused on killing. They were going to fuck with you. I mean, just the little things that the killer did. I mean, the how they would stay there and like, kind of challenge the victim to like run one way, or the little thing with the keys in his hand, like, yeah, I'm going to get in the car one way or the other. So, and you're going to be terrified, and just how I can understand, being a young kid and seeing that, and how he was, the killer was unlocking the door and then very slowly and quietly gets in through the back of the car. I mean, that would have terrified me if I had seen that as a young kid. But yeah, I can't gush on more about Matthew Lillard. And another favorite line of his is when Billy throws the phone at him. He's like, "Throw the phone at me, dick!" Like, just a typical, high school dickhead. So no, but yeah, this kind of turned me around a little bit on horror movies. I had seen like I said, I had seen a few, but I wasn't a fan. And I was like, I really enjoyed the movie, even though it scared me probably initially, but I think it was solid.
I agree. I love this movie has so much rewatchability for me as well, because if you go and rewatch the movie knowing who the killers are, you can see that at the beginning of the movie where they talk about Drew Barrymore's killer, you find out that it was Stu's ex-girlfriend that he dated before he dated Rose McGowan. And then when Stu says, before Rose McGowan gets killed, when Tatum gets killed, he said, "Hey, babe, can you go get me a beer?" So he's setting it up all in motion. It's just great. It's just little moments that you like. You know, you think it's nothing when you ask, like, "Hey, can you grab me a beer?" And then no, it's a setup for murder. But that's it for Scream 1. We're gonna go with Scream 2 right now. Came out in 1997. As with these horror movies, they strike while the iron is hot. Comes out just a year after the first one. The movie takes place at Sid's first year of college. She goes to a small college, and it starts off with you find out that Scream 1 has been made into a movie in the Scream universe called Stab. So it starts off the movie theater showing Stab, and Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett Smith are on a date, and they both get killed. And the crowd goes crazy when Jada's killed because they think everyone's in the Ghostface mask, so you can't really tell who's the killer. But like she has this big dramatic death, and what'd you guys think of that? A little bit different from the Drew Barrymore death in Scream 1. I mean, I know these two actors are big now. I wasn't sure if they were big in 1997, but it sets the tone for the rest of the movie. Andy, what did you think?
Yeah, it was the big name people. I mean, Jada was up and coming at the time, and Omar Epps was known. I think he had done some teen movies and stuff, but I thought, yeah, I think she was a bitch though. I was like, at one point, I'm like, stab her ass, because she was kind of nasty. But I mean, that's Omar Epps' kill is pretty brutal. I mean, you know, he's like hearing something going on in the stall next to him, and then wham, a knife to the head through the freaking bathroom stall door, which was gnarly. But yeah, this was, it was, again, it upped the stakes a little bit because it's out there and everybody knows about what happened in Woodsboro. And, you know, the killer has now a little bit more of an advantage because the mask is readily available that they use. And it was, yeah, it was telling you that, you know, okay, you thought you knew what happened in Scream. You think you know what's going to happen going in? No. It's going to be up. The ante's upped, and we're gonna keep you guessing for this movie again.
Yeah, Scott, what did you think of this opening kill?
I like Omar Epps because he was in a lot of my favorite movies going back to when he was Q in Juice. I love Juice, by the way. He was in The Program. He was Darnell Jefferson in The Program. And, of course, the second Willie Mays Hayes because, you know, Wesley Snipes was too cool for school to be Willie Mays Hayes again. So they got Omar Epps. And he was Malik Williams in Higher Learning. So I was kind of pumped to see Omar Epps because he was pretty much on a roll in the early mid-'90s with movie roles. Having said that, I am not the biggest Jada Pinkett fan before or after she married Will. So her death made me smile, to be honest. But Omar Epps' death was like rough. Like I said, like a night. I mean, and he's still walking, and I was oof. But I like the fact that, first off, Stab is a great horror movie title. I feel like it's wasted as a fake movie. I have to go look and see if there's a real Stab somewhere. I think that'd be really cool. Having said that, I thought the open was great. It was something different. But I will say I was a little skeptical. I understand the strike while the iron is hot, but horror movies rushed usually suck. So, and historically I felt that way because in both 1988 and 1989, Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street all did movies back-to-back years, 88 and 89. Ooh. And all three of them in 89 were not good. Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, is not good. Halloween 5, the Revenge of Michael Myers, is not good. And Nightmare on Elm Friday 13 Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan is not garbage, but it's not great. Let's put it this way. At that point, yeah, but by then, your expectations of Friday movies are not that high. So it didn't really sequel was literally out the next year. I got to admit, I was a little skeptical. I'm like, I don't know, Wes. I don't know if this was a smart move. This was before he dropped a finger. I don't know. So I was going in fingers crossed that this was not going to suck. And after the first scene, before the open cap came up, I knew we were okay.
Yeah, I agree. Eric, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. The two ways to think about this opening is that there's a bunch of very rowdy people wanting to see a new horror movie based on a book, based on a real life slayings. Has anyone ever been to a screen for a movie that's ever been that pumped? Like where they already have the merchandise set inside? Yeah, that itself was funny to me.
Titanic. Although I wish it was a gun so I could blow my fucking brains out, but I had to watch it for my job and I was at the radio station.
Yeah,
but no, that's what I wish that I wish the merchandise was the actual boat so I could drown in it. But no, I nothing fun, nothing. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that, Eric. Hold on, I just remembered. Phantom Menace.
Yeah,
Phantom Menace.
Some of the Marvel movies and stuff, yeah, I've had stuff, yeah.
The last Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2, the whole crowd was pretty amped at the midnight release. So there's been a couple, but I don't think any horror movies I've been to.
Now, just to, Eric, you talking about merch, or you just talking about general energy level? You meant merch?
I was talking about general energy, but it's just also surprising, like, if you really think about it, like, they already have this merch already out to hand to people.
Well, if you mean energy level, then literally every Star Wars movie I've ever been to, really.
I guess that.
And MCUs, any of those, like Endgame, Infinity War, like all that. For me, though, Part 9, the room was tense. I wouldn't even say it was exciting. I would say it was tense, depending on your opinion of The Last Jedi. But we're going off a totally different path here. Yes, I've been to plenty where like the energy level was through the roof. I agree with that.
Yeah. No, I liked seeing Omar and Jada. I thought it was fairly realistic of a couple who one is more excited to see a movie than the other, but who slowly gets into it. She does kind of get into it at that point. Seeing it's Heather Graham recreating the Drew Barrymore kill, but it's all like more sexified and such. It's like she's coming out of the shower and such. Also, she has the same hairstyle as Drew Barrymore, but it looks really awful on Heather Graham. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So, but no, I do like the kill. I do like Omar's kill. Jada's is a little more like people kind of know it's like I don't think this is a stunt. It'd be crazy to do a stunt like that. But yeah, it certainly starts out the movie. It's very memorable, if nothing else.
They should have gone to see the Sandra Bullock movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What was that? What do you think it was? The Net?
Oh God. Hope Floats.
You know what?
I was thinking Hope Floats.
Yeah, I was thinking Hope Floats. Probably like a romantic.
You know what I'm going to do? Because
Speed 2.
Well, this is what I'm going to do because it makes Andy laugh. It's time to go to Wiki. No, I'm going to go. I'm going to go to her filmography and see what came out in 1997.
You're gonna do my gimmick on the show?
I am gonna do your gimmick. Sorry, I kind of invented it. So
hold on.
You know what came out in Speed? You know what came out in 19? You're off by a year. Hope Floats came out the following year. 1997 for her was Speed 2: Cruise Control.
Eric was right.
So good call. Yeah, Hope Floats was the following year. And the Net was 95. I was off by a couple years.
So this movie was also written by Kevin Williamson, who wrote the first one as well. So we have continuity with that, which is always good with these movies. After that kill, we see that Sydney's being pranked at college, which when I went to college, we all had cell phones, but it looks like she had landlines back in the 90s, which makes sense. And she has caller ID with people saying, "What's your favorite scary movie?" And she threatens to sue them. But we meet the new crew for this one. We meet Sydney's boyfriend, Derek, Sydney's roommate, Haley. And then you also meet, you see that Randy is going to the same college as well. And he has Mickey, played by Timothy Oliphant, is in there, as well as Cece, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and a Joshua Jackson, who is not credited, just shows up in the scene randomly, which is pretty crazy because he was in the middle of making Dawson's Creek at the time.
Not yet. It launches the following January.
Oh, okay.
But he was in the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, well, he was also in the Mighty Ducks. I was going to say that as well, but he'll always be pacey to me. But we also meet a local reporter played by Laurie Metcalf, because she's covering the murders as well. You see Gail Weathers show up, and Andy, you said Gail looked good in the first movie. She looks even better in the second movie, in my opinion. So you have all this stuff going on, and then you find out that Cotton's been released as well. That's a pretty big deal that he's been released after Sydney recanted her story. And after that, we get our basically what I'm going to call the Tatum kill with the killing of Cece, Sarah Michelle Gellar. What did you guys think of that kill?
I was kind of sad because I like Sarah Michelle Gellar, to be honest with you. But I think she was there to eat a death. So it was. She's another one that moved. Well, I mean, she was one you knew you were going to get a good athletic death out of because at that point, I think Buffy was on what season?
Is after season 1. They filmed it during hiatus.
Okay, so she was in that stretch
turnaround.
of she was in that stretch of being athletic. So, and obviously she would kick that into gear for the next what is it, 6 seasons of Buffy, I think. 7, 6 after season 1. So she's doing a lot about Buffy, Eric. Not a bad show though. Didn't watch a lot of it, but I like it. So I thought it was a good kill, running around the house. I feel like that house had like 8 floors. Every time I looked, there was another staircase she was running up. I'm like, Jesus, well, these sorority girls have a very rich university. What was it, High Point in North Carolina? It's like, my God, every time she turned, there's another fucking staircase she's running up. But it was a good kill. I enjoyed that one because you had because something else came out in '97, which I know we'll be talking about later in the program, that had her in it. So she was. I thought that was a good death. Great camera work, by the way. I'm always very attuned to that. Andy, you and I have this conversation a lot about this.
Yeah.
I'm always attuned to cameras, like you were saying, or to Eric earlier. I'm always attuned to cameras when it comes to horror movies, particularly horror kills, because a lot of times they're not very easy. I've been watching a lot of older horror movies, 60s and 70s stuff this month. And cameras are not easy to work with when you're dealing with kills. But I thought the camera work in this kill was particularly good.
Andy, what did you think?
I thought it was great. I mean, because she was coming off Buffy, and you knew somebody was there was going to be another, like, what you thought was unrelated death. I was actually hoping for one of the other girls to be the one, like Rebecca Gayheart, very annoying. And what the fuck is up with Portia de Rossi's eyebrows in this movie? I mean,
it's concerning. Yeah,
I could not stop looking at them. I felt like Austin Powers, like in the third movie with the mole. I was like, eyebrows. Like every time it was like, oh my God, it's Hairy Monster. Jesus. But no, I thought the Cece kill was pretty brutal. Anytime that, they get killed twice, so to speak, which happens to quite a few characters throughout the franchise, not only is she got stabbed and with probably fatal wounds, she gets thrown off a balcony, like a deck or whatever it is, and onto the pavement, and it was pretty brutal. And again, like, she's known because she had been doing stuff for a while, and I mean, I don't know if she was really in much of the, I can't remember at the time, but whether she was in a lot of the marketing as being in it. So it was kind of a surprise, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think I believe it's Jada Pickett. Like they put like on the poster and such, much like Drew Barrymore, like someone is like throw you off. They're gonna be in the whole movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these deaths caused Dewey to show up. Dewey walking with a limp after being stabbed in the back. So, he's holding his hand odd. He's somehow still a cop, which escapes me, but okay. And him and Randy have an interesting conversation about rules of the sequel. And they only get to 2 rules: more deaths and more blood. Are there any other rules to the sequel that we should know about besides not sucking?
Yeah. Those are big ones. Well, the other one was, of course, the rule that was broken here is we have the same killer but different people. So that's obviously we'll get more into that at the end, but that's a rule that kind of gets thrown out the window. We have the same killer because it's the same outfit. It's Ghostface, same tattered, black robe and stuff, but different people. And that's all. I think that's what makes this franchise so unique. But anyway, that's definitely
and the same voice modulation.
Roger Jackson was that voice. I'm sure he made a ton of money in those 14 years or whatever.
Yeah. And then after that, we have the most shocking moment of the movie for me. Randy is murdered. What did you guys think of that? Were you guys expecting one of the core 4, quote unquote, to bite the bullet or get stabbed, bite the knife, I guess? What were you guys thinking when that scene occurred? Scott, you can kick off.
I was kind of stunned. I didn't remember when I watched it recently again that Randy bit the big one, but I think his role was starting to wane in the story. So if there was one of the core 4 that was going to bite it, it was going to be him. It certainly wasn't going to be Gale. It wasn't obviously going to be Dewey, and obviously it wasn't going to be Sidney, or you wouldn't have movies anymore. So if there was one that was going to bite the bullet to really nail home that everything is fair game, Randy was the one that was going to get it. So at the same time, I was stunned, but then again, if you really wanted to hammer home that all bets are off with this movie, doing that to him makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely agree because it shows that everyone's vulnerable. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I was shocked. I didn't think Randy was going to go. I thought Dewey was the most expendable out of them, actually. Because I don't know. I didn't see. Well, Gale. You knew Sidney wasn't going to get it. I was pretty sure she was going to survive. But yeah, the Randy kill was pretty shocking and pretty brutal, and that. A little game that I like to play while I was watching these again was trying to figure out in each movie which killer killed each person. And I know a specific one of the killers in this one, Randy just got to them, I think. I think Randy probably was the target. But it was a very emotional kill with the brutality of it. I was pretty shocked when Randy bit it, though.
Yeah, and Eric, what did you think? Were you happy to see him go, or upset, or shocked?
No, I was certainly shocked for sure, because he was in the previous movie, and I just didn't expect it at that time. You didn't expect such a shocking death take place in such a during the daytime, populated area and such. He gets pulled in that van and it just starts rocking as those the boombox crew just randomly walks by just to cover up his screams. It's all very convenient. But no, it works. It works of raising the stakes and making the most of it, of killing a character we already know and established from a previous movie. It's as Scott would certainly know, it's not like Nightmare on Elm Street 4 where you're just killing off the surviving kids 20 minutes in and it all feels very rushed. This is up your new cast.
Yeah, it was.
This work.
Yeah, it was personal. This kill, I think. When we talk about who the killers are, you can definitely tell that this became, like a revenge kill, so to speak.
Oh, it was definitely a revenge kill based on the shit talking he was doing at the time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So, but now might be the most memorable kill in the movie.
I think it's between him and CC, just because with the brutality of both, actually. Scott, one thing we see in these movies is in this movie especially is the subplot of Cotton Weary. We see that he's out of jail. He's trying to talk to Sydney, trying to get her to do a Diane Sawyer interview. Did you think he was the killer, or were you just excited to see him there? I guess it's a two-part question. So,
well, I'll answer him in reverse. Was I excited to see him? Yes. I think he added, and again, I as I rewatched these, I totally forgotten that Liv Schreiber was in this as much as he was. God, he was so young. If you watch him now on Ray Donovan, my God, he's so grizzled. He's so young in this one. Imagine 20 years, I guess. It was. I was excited to see that because that throws a whole, because he could easily get revenge on Sydney for pretty much lying or making it up to, and he lost, however many years in prison. I mean, maybe not much, I guess a couple, but did I think he was the killer? No, because I think that would have been too obvious. I think it would have been obvious that he was the killer, which is why Wes Craven is so good at what he does. That's almost too red a red herring. Like, nah, because that's too obvious that it's him. Now, Wes Craven could be like, all right, well, you don't think it's him because you think it's too obvious, then we won't make it him. So at the same time, maybe I was being a little cynical, but no, I didn't think he was the killer. Because I think Cotton Weary, I felt like he just wanted to move on or make money. So either way, he may not be innocent in that sense, but I don't think he was the killer. I thought that would have been too obvious. But it was good to see him add a different something to the mix.
Yeah, he became an actual character. I think he wasn't much of a character in the first movie. Once it was all said and done, he was like, he was a plot device basically in the first one. This one, he shows up. He's a fame whore. He's trying to capitalize on his 15 minutes. So, I mean, maybe, that could lead to people thinking he might have been the killer because, he wanted to, keep the Sidney Prescott stuff going in the press.
that's actually a good point that I hadn't even thought of. It keeps her name out there, and by proxy, it keeps his name out there, Andy. That's actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we have Dewey and Gale team up as Dewey is slighted because in Gale's new book, Gale kind of takes a shit on him, to be completely honest. But then Dewey gets stabbed again. Eric, did you think Dewey was finally dead this time?
Yeah, I would think so, because didn't he get stabbed more than once this time around compared to the first movie?
How many stabs in the back can someone take?
Yeah, and that editing bay was like really bloodied up. So, we didn't see his body. We could just assume and such for the rest of the movie. It wouldn't surprise me if he was dead. So.
And then Andy, so Sydney's had a cop detail the whole time with this, and this is when I think Sydney's usually pretty good about not making dumb decisions during the movie, but this time when Ghostface kills both of the cops in a pretty good scene, and then crashes the car with Sydney and her roommate in the back. They have to climb over the killer to get out of the car because of course they do, but then Sydney's like, I'm gonna go see who it is. And with her stalling like this, it gets her roommate killed. What'd you think of her, being a typical horror idiot? Oh, no, let's go see it. It's like, no, you can get the hell out of there.
Well, I mean, she has to have flaws. I mean, she can't, you have to believe that, she is going to make a mistake that, could lead to her death. I mean, nobody, would be perfect in every situation. I mean, these were some pretty brutal deaths, especially the second cop.
Yeah,
it reminds me of one of the more brutal deaths in I think it was the second Final Destination, where somebody gets a pipe through the head in a car. A little different, but some very similar. But yeah, and the fact that she has to climb over that. I mean, Hallie basically is the new Tatum, and she's going to get killed at some point. But it was basically Sidney's fault. I mean, they could have gotten away. I mean, also you don't realize that. Does Sidney know that it's one killer? Does she have an inkling that it could be more than one killer? So, I mean, it's kind of like trying to think, like, were they both there, or were they, I mean, that's pretty terrifying to have to, you have this person that just killed these two cops, sitting there kind of knocked out, and you gotta, climb over them without waking them up. And you're just scared shitless. Yeah, it's pretty freaky.
And this leads...
She's already dealing with a lot as it is. She's definitely doing some PTSD. Just from how she was dealing with stuff during her rehearsal, her play rehearsal.
Exactly, Eric. That brings up to our final confrontation. We're at the theater, and we get the reveal of one of the killers, which is Mickey. Were you guys shocked with this reveal? Let's start with you, Scott.
Excuse me. No, actually, I didn't. I had a feeling it was Timothy Olyphant from the beginning. I always think he's, as much as he's a good guy in Justified, Timothy Olyphant just looks like a great bad guy. He always just looks kind of smarmy. He was kind of the Matthew Lillard character where you just look at him and go, yeah, he's kind of smarmy. So believe it or not, I thought that was my pick the whole movie. And I remember when it was revealed and I was in the theater, I went, yeah, still got it. The second reveal totally caught me off, which you'll mention. I know you'll mention in a minute, but it totally threw me off, that one. But I kind of felt all along that it was him. I know a lot of people thought that it was Derek, and I'm sure Jerry O'Connell would have loved to have been the killer, because that would have been so wild for him. But nah, I kind of felt it was him the whole time.
Yeah, that actually brings up. Mickey says that he's the killer, and that Derek's the other killer. Has there been a subplot where Derek was in a fraternity, and Andy, you'll have to speak to this once I'm done, where he gave Sydney, his girlfriend, his letters, and as a hazing tradition, they tied him up on a cross, and poured got him drunk and just basically tied him up on this cross with just in his boxers. And Sydney's about to tie him down, and Mickey's like, no, he's the kill. Me and Derek are the killers. And then it reveals that Derek wasn't a killer. He was actually a good guy, but Mickey shoots him dead. Did you do anything like this, Andy? I know you were in a fraternity, so that's why I'm asking.
Well, yeah, you don't there's only one time of the year you were allowed to let somebody else wear your colors, which was Greek weekend, where everybody exchanged colors just for that thing, for the whole Greek camaraderie, rah-rah-rah stuff. But no, they, I don't remember I think the specific rule was, I think you had to be, with the girl, so to speak. She had to be your girlfriend, I think, to allow her to wear. I mean, I got shit once from some of my fraternity brothers because I was outside a bar with a friend of mine, and she was cold. I let her wear my fraternity jacket, and one of my brothers drove by, and our next frat meeting, which we had weekly, don't ever let her wear your colors, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, shut the fuck. I was like, really? I was like, it was fucking cold out. Shut up. Get out of here. But yeah, people can be like that. I mean, it depends on the individual fraternity too, on what their specific set of rules are in terms of allowing, I don't know about a necklace or whatever that was. We didn't have that. So yeah, I think it depends on the individual frat. I was kind of glad to see Derek get it, though, by the way, because I'm not a big Jerry O'Connell fan.
Yeah.
He was kind of wasted in this, to be honest. Which there's only so much time you can do with a movie full of all these characters. So
well, he was like the anti-Billy kind of thing, I think.
Yeah, he got to take over a mess hall, stand on a table, sing a Partridge Family song.
Yeah, that was.
You ever see some asshole do like that when you were in college?
Yes, me. Going back to the fraternity thing, it was big that we had to do shit like that. Though we had to, I had to sing. I think I had to sing "You Lost That Love and Feeling." I think on a table in the cafeteria.
You literally have a story for everything. You really do.
I do.
You literally have a frat story
live
for everything.
life.
My God. Too busy getting hazed or yelled at to watch Halloween.
To watch Halloween, yes.
So Eric, Mickey says the reason why he did these killings is that he wants to get caught and blame movies for what he did and become famous on court TV. Do you think that'll stand up in court? Because I personally don't.
No. It would incite like the usual Helen Lovejoy's. Won't somebody please think of the children? Like terms of movies and their content, but ultimately it was like, yeah, you're an asshole, and like you're just using justification to be an asshole. So, no, just a fun creep. Honestly, I didn't even think when I first saw it, I wouldn't have thought it was him because he disappears from the movie after the E. O'Connell song and dance thing. It's like 40 minutes earlier, so I'm not really thinking about where he is. So it was a bit of a surprise.
I love his monologue, though. Probably one of the best of the killers in the franchise.
Yeah. Well, he's Timothy Oliphant, and he's very good at acting.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And then, guys, this is when we brought to the true reveal, because I remember watching this movie and being shocked because I wasn't expecting it. It is discovered that the local reporter that we had seen Gail talking to, kind of being a bitch to, was actually Billy Loomis's mom. And she recruited Mickey from, I don't even know if they had chat rooms in 97, serial killer chat rooms. And they...
Probably on Prodigy.
Probably on Prodigy. Were you guys shocked with Billy Loomis's mom? Who were you expecting 2 killers or just 1 killer here? And who'd you guys think was the second killer? I'll go with you first, Andy.
I thought they were going to be a second killer. I think they established that. They kind of, go away from that briefly. But, yeah, I was shocked. I had no clue. One thing I wrote down, though, during my rewatch, though, was like, how does Debbie avoid being seen by Sidney? Because Sidney basically recognizes her right away. It's like, Mrs. Loomis, and she's like, that's Billy Loomis. Oh, she lost weight and blah, 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 But that was kind of, a plot hole I saw, because she's there the whole time, every time, and Sidney doesn't see her at all, doesn't say, wait a second, that looks like Billy's mom. But no, it was shocking, because, you really didn't think of her, I guess, like that. You thought of her more of like trying to be the next Gail Weathers, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. Scott, what did you think? Were you shocked that she was the killer, and did you think it was
Yes.
1 killer or 2 killers?
I thought it was 2 killers. I think Wes liked that as the trope for the franchise, but I did not expect her. I was expecting, I don't know. I was expecting a second killer. I didn't know where it came from, though. I did not want to believe it was Cotton Weary, because that would have been weird. But when she unveiled, and yeah, Andy's got a good point. Like, how do you avoid Sidney seeing her for an hour and something minutes of the movie? Because she could have pointed out, Sidney could have pointed her out literally like in the first 10 minutes of the movie on campus. How she doesn't see her is kind of mind-boggling. So I'm not going to lie. I agree with Andy in that point. I didn't think that the whole story of Billy and Stu and Sidney's mom, like, I didn't think they were going to go this deep into Sidney's mom until I thought they were just going to keep that story going on. Then we found out in the third one a lot of people went deep with Sidney's mom. But yes. I thought that storyline was going to just die and we were going to move on to other stuff. I didn't realize that Sidney's mom was going to play such a focal point in the franchise's story. And then when that reveal came, I went, oh, I like this. I like this a lot. Because if Timothy Olyphant was the only killer, what a dopey reason to be a killer, to be honest with you. I thought it was kind of stupid. I know they were trying to take advantage of the 90s and the different generation of selfishness and stuff, but that would have made no sense if that was the only thing. But I was legitimately surprised when I saw Laurie Metcalf, who really had nothing to do because Roseanne had ended. So so it's a good pub for her to make some extra cash. But I was legitimately stunned. I was stunned because I didn't think they were going to continue the whole storyline with Billy and Sydney's mom and all this other stuff. I didn't think that was going to keep happening. I thought they were just going to do something else.
Eric, got anything to add?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know like if this was part of the original plan. Apparently, in my research on this movie, apparently an early draft of the script by Williamson was one of those got leaked to the internet. So the killers were revealed to most people who could find it at the time. So I believe it was possibly going to be Oliphant's character and Haley, the roommate, which I guess are works more into the whole copycat thing. But obviously they changed things. I don't know if this was supposed to be like Mrs. Loomis all along. Yeah, it gets a little wonky. The story. We didn't mention earlier that there was sort of a motive to all the kills early on at the police station, where they tried to tie in like the victims having sort of similar names to the victims from the first movie, but that gets dropped completely. So more of that's a part of like them doing rewrites to try and surprise the audience. Mm-hmm. I was certainly surprised. I wouldn't expect like Aunt Becky be a killer in the movie, unless he was just trying to kill that mom finally.
Yeah, it was quite a shock. And then Mickey's like, "We're gonna get away with it," and Mrs. Loomis kills Mickey dead because he was basically her stew. And then, Gail had also showed up, but she gets hit in the crossfire of Mickey and Mrs. Loomis shooting each other. And then Mrs. Loomis has Sydney dead to rights, and Cotton shows up, and Billy's mom's trying to convince Cotton to let her kill Sydney. It's like, she took away years of your life. And then Sydney goes, yes to Diane Sawyer's, and he kills Billy's mom. So he continues his 15 minutes of fame. And then Gail shows up. She's still alive. And the jump scare for this one is Mickey with kill him. And that brings an end to Scream 2. What do you guys think of it compared to the first one? I'll start with you, Andy.
I thought it was just as good. I mean, I love the killers. I mean, in this one, I think they were more sane, I guess. Not they were more focused on it. I think Billy and Stu were just kind of going as they go. I mean, I think they were more dicks about it. I mean, I thought it was brutal at the end. Like, after Mickey does the jump scare, and then they kind of look at Debbie Salt, and they're like, they just blow her away in the head again, just to be sure. But thinking about it, and I was doing my little list of kills. I think Mickey did like really almost all, except for 2. I think Mickey did all the kills. I think Debbie was the one that killed Randy, because we mentioned earlier how emotional that kill was, because he was talking so much shit about Billy right before it gets killed, and it's probably one of the most brutal kills in the whole franchise, actually, probably. And then I think she also kills Hallie. Other than that, I think Mickey kills everybody else. But yeah, it was definitely it kept the it didn't. There was no sophomore slump here. It kept the franchise going.
And Andy, to speak to that, she Mrs. Loomis admits to killing Randy. She says, "I got a little stabby with Randy."
Yes, that's right. She did admit to that. But yeah, I think she killed Hallie too, though.
Yeah, that's the only ones I think. And I think Mickey killed Cece because when the sorority girls come and try to recruit the roommate and Sydney to join, Mickey says, "What do you see in those uptight bitches anyway?"
Yeah.
And then he kills CC. So definite upon seeing it again. What about you, Scott?
Again, I was pleasantly surprised because I was a little nervous that this came out came out a year later, and there was no room for cultivating. Striking while the iron's hot's one thing, but you also don't want to do something too super fast. So I was a little nervous, but I really liked it. I think all of the characters matured, except for Sydney's one gaffe where she pulls the typical bonehead, the easy way out, and instead she pulls the bonehead move, which emotionally, I don't blame her. I know she does it pretty dumb, and it does lead to her roommate's death, but I kind of don't blame her because she's gone through a lot of shit, and she probably want to see who was doing this to her again. I think that this trinity of Sydney, Dewey, and Gale is very strong, and they all were so good in it, and they really galvanized the film for me. And Sydney really showed to me, and Nev Campbell did, that she's a keeper. I know they'll probably make a third one. I thought that at the time. Because Wes Craven is pretty good at knowing the pulse of the audience, and this one was particularly good. So I just hope they didn't do another one the following year, because then I think it would have been starting to get too rapid. But I was pleasantly surprised at liking the second one. I was a little nervous. Having said that, the second film of all three of the major franchises, the second Friday, the second Halloween, and the second Nightmare, are all pretty well. The second Nightmare has its own has a historically unusual backstory, but the second Friday 13th and the second Halloween are both pretty good, actually. So conventional wisdom was going to tell you that it was going to be pretty good, and it was. So a thumbs up. I liked it a lot. It's not better than the first one. Nothing's better than the first one, except maybe the Terminator. Maybe Judgment Day is better than the first one, depending on your point of view.
Yes,
but I really liked this one. I think Wes Craven did a great job. Kevin Williamson wrote a great script, and they hit a home run.
I agree. Eric, do you have anything to add?
Not a whole lot. I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's as good as the first movie. It's very hard to get that level of quality. There is always that advantage of making a movie turn around so quick, especially like at the very least, like they had to be locked into a certain time. Like they had to film it over the summer because people like Nev Campbell are still working on TV shows, so at least they had time to pre-plan the script a little bit. But it's good. It's a solid sequel. Surprised that Dewey does make it alive again.
He has 9 lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think he says he hit scar tissue, so which kind of saved him, I guess.
Scar tissue. And it ends on a nice note. Although Nev Campbell just walked away by herself when someone else should be comforting her because she's definitely traumatized by all the shit that's happened. So, which we'll see, surprisingly, we'll see followed up on in the next movie. So,
and that will bring an end to the first half of Blockbuster Rewind with the Scream series. Be sure to catch us on the second half after this. Welcome back to Blockbuster Rewind. I'm your host, Scott Shifflett, joined as always by Andy Atherton and Eric Eells, and tonight our special co-host, Scott Criscuolo. Here's what we have at the PTBN Pop Feet. Earlier this month, I stopped by Laughton Theater to join Andy to watch Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. Always enjoy that movie. Diamond Conversations, the latest episode featured former Pittsburgh Pirate and LA Dodger pitcher Jerry Roos. The newest piece of the action has Matt welcome Calvin Crowell to live watch Face Off, which should be a fun and interesting listen. On the Year in Pop, Andy, Scott, Dr. G, and John D'Amato discuss all the major pop culture, sports, news, music, and movies of the year in 1985. They're catching up on my birth year, which is 1989. Can't wait to listen to those. On the latest Pop Goes to Classics, Scott and Tech continue their deep dive to the Star Trek films by discussing 1989's Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. The most recent Making Mount Rushmore has panelists John D'Amato, Sean Kidd, Matt Souza, and Roger Morissette joining Andy to tell us which 1980s comedy films and 1980s action films belong in their respective Mount Rushmore. And a sneak peek of the new show, Telly and T, gives us a glimpse into what co-hosts Miranda, Burhold, and Ben Locke have in store each episode, which will include a deep dive of a particular season of a TV series. That should be a fun listen. Also, be sure to check out the PTBN Wrestling Network, which includes deep dives into topics running the gamut from today's WWE through yesteryear. This includes the Place to Be podcast, The Mothership, Main Event, Jenny and the Gems, Body Press Your Luck, PTB NXT, the NWA Saturday Special, NWA Crock and Roll, Chicken Salad, the Special Relations Podcast, Highway to the Impact Zone, and so much more. Don't forget to subscribe. I listen to all of those podcasts. They are a great podcast. And while you're at it, subscribe to Jennifer Smith's The Jenny Position feed, as well as the home of Geek and Sassy, Talking Pop, Freak Out Drive-In, The Journey Through Infinity, Telling Stories, Brother Sister Rewatch. You heard about Pluto, Bianca's First Time, and much more. I'm a big fan of the Journey Through Infinity series. I suggest you guys check that out. And also check out the new North-South Connection podcast feed, brought to you by JT Rosero, Chad Campbell, and Aaron George. It's the home for Wrestling Warzone, No Holds Barred, the Extreme Throwaway Dance, the Ruthlessly Aggressive podcast, Carolina Dreaming, Shrink Wrapped, Jeff Learns Wrestling, and more. And also, don't forget about the 2020 Stretch Project, determining the greatest WCW match ever. We have a Facebook group at /GWCW matches, or on the Pro Wrestling Only message board. And don't forget to check out PlaceToBeNation.com each and every day. We have new voices and fresh takes, bringing you articles on topics in the worlds of wrestling, sports, and pop culture, including Trent's SmackDown on Fox Report, This Week in the WWE by John Crow, Steve Riddle's Wonderful World of Disney Reviews, Paulie's Perspective, Matt's live action Disney movie reviews, and Ben's unpopular opinion. And if you want to do some online shopping over at Amazon.com, be sure to click on the Amazon banner on the right side of the Place to Be Nation homepage, or use placetobenation.com/Amazon. It takes you right to Amazon, helps out PTBN with no cost to you.
Well done.
And sorry, that was a lot.
That's what happens when you're in the host chair, man.
Yeah, I know. I was just trying to add my little spin with some of it as well. But all right. So welcome back, and this brings us back to Scream 3, which came out in 2001, and most of the same cast is returning for this. We have Scott Foley joining as one of the bigger names, and also McDreamy from Grey's Anatomy, whose name I'm blanking on right now.
Patrick Dempsey.
Patrick Dempsey, that is correct. So actually, Scream 3 came out in 2000. It's directed by Wes Craven, and the writer for this is Kevin Williamson and Aaron Kruger. Which, Scott, I don't know about you, but I felt a tonal shift with this movie. What about you? What did you think?
Yeah, I was. I'm glad they took to back up my point, to defend myself, not to defend my position. I was glad they took a couple years off. It did motivate. What I loved about what Scream did is that it motivated other franchises to get off their ass and do better. And in 1998, we got Halloween H2O, which was a complete improvement over whatever we had gotten. I mean, I love all the Halloween movies, personally for me, but as an objective fan, 4, 5, and 6. I mean, 4 is actually not bad. 5 and 6 are pretty awful, particularly 6, unless you watch the producer's cut. That one's 10 times better than theatrical. And I feel like the first 2 Screams motivated a lot of old movie franchises to kind of get off their ass and clean up their act. And the Halloween group were very lucky that Jamie Lee came back and we got Halloween H2O. So, and then in 1999, we get a whole new genre of horror. We leave the slasher and we enter found footage. And of course, in 1999, the Blair Witch Project came out. So now we have a completely different genre of horror. And now we've gotten found footage, and we've gone back, thank God, because it's always a forgotten style of horror. We're starting to go back to haunted houses and ghosts, because I love ghosts and I love haunted houses. So we got out of purely sticking knives in eyeballs and through skulls and actually had some creative scares, which ultimately would be perfected by the Conjuring franchise. So having said that, I was very excited for the third one because the first 2 were so good and Wes was still there. We had some different writers helping Kevin Williamson out. So you knew we were going to get a little different input. So things might look a little different. For those that don't remember Scott Foley, he was on Felicity before he actually, the first time I ever saw Scott Foley before I saw this he was on Scandal, which just ended a couple years ago. On a side note, I want to go back to 2 things from the first half of the show. I wanted to remember this. Number 1, I totally forgot that the year before Scream came out in 1995, Drew Barrymore was in Batman Forever. She was one of Two-Face's malls there, one of those hot girls. So I just wanted to bring that up because I totally forgot. We're talking about what the hell Drew Barrymore did in the early 90s and early to mid 90s, and I forgot she was in that. Secondly, I have to point out I wouldn't be a proper 90210 fan if I didn't mention Rebecca Gayheart in the second one, who of course was Tony Marchette, beloved Dylan McKay, and wife that was killed by her dad, and led him to leave the show for 3 seasons. Anyway, I had to do that. I could not do that.
What about the other 90210 cast member?
Oh, of course, yes. Well, that was actually on purpose.
That was a good sport.
I know. She was a good sport. He's, of course, talking about, for those that remember the second one, Tori Spelling was in it because Neve Campbell threw a jab at her in the first one. Oh, they'll probably make some movie and Tori Spelling will play me. And she did. So that was great. I enjoyed that.
And they had Luke Wilson.
Anyway, back to my... And Luke, yes, and Heather Graham playing Drew Barrymore. So one hottie to another. Anyway, back to your question. I was excited about this third one because, again, I feel like the horror genre got rejuvenated in this 4-year stretch at the end of the 90s going into the 2000s, both because of this, the rejuvenation of the Halloween franchise, and of course 2002 we'd get Jason X, but that's funny. That's fun in its own special way. And then the new subgenre of found footage, ghosts and stuff with the Blair Witch Project. So I was excited because things were looking up again for the horror genre in movies.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Andy? Did you notice a tonal shift watching this movie?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of like went to the very meta. It was like the movie within the movie now again, where we had kind of like doubles of characters. We had 2 Sydneys, we had 2 Gales, kind of, so to speak. Yeah, it was definitely, a different tone. I mean, I had heard a rumor, and I don't know if any of you guys had heard this, that I think for the first 2, Kevin Williamson actually, I think, locked himself like in a motel room for a weekend and cranked out the first 2 Scream scripts, I think, back to back. I don't know if that's true or urban legend or whatever, but yeah, you could definitely tell though there was some different hands on this movie.
I wonder if he did the Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon way of writing No Holds Barred, just tons of cocaine.
And hookers from Billy Jack Jones. Yeah.
So I'm gonna kick off with the start of Scream 3, which before we've just had what's your favorite scary movie. The voice box with this one, it's able to replicate people's voices, as we find out in the first scene where Cotton Weary, who seems to be basically like a Jerry Springer type, where has these crappy TV show and everything, but like he thinks he's talking to a girl, and he's like, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And he goes, "No." He's like, "Why am I looking at your girlfriend now?" And he's like, "I'm going to kill her if you don't tell me where Sydney is." So then Cotton and his girlfriend end up getting killed, which for me, I always thought you could have got more out of the Cotton character personally, but it just sets the tone that no one's off limits, because Cotton, not as big as Gale, Sydney, or Dewey, but had still survived. And you thought with the third movie, with like the first movie he was barely there, he was just in like TV found footage, but in the second movie a bigger role, and you think maybe in the third movie he has a pretty big role, but he doesn't. Eric, what'd you think of that kill?
It was certainly surprising. It's like it's been the tone of these movies so far, is like have a reasonable like big name involved and kill them off, and this was different because it was a big name who was built up through the franchise itself and a character. So it good. It set a different tone right away, because this movie is taking place in Hollywood, as we really ramp up the metatextual references. But it also like right away establishes something I don't like, which is that voice changer that replicates everyone's voices perfectly. It's way too. It creates the convenience of putting all the characters together where you need them by it, and it just feels a little too unrealistic even for this franchise. So
it's a little convenient. It's a little too convenient plot device.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the Home Alone 2, the talkback that they had.
Yeah.
Which you never want to be compared to a kid's movie as a horror movie.
No. The voice changer itself was like kind of pushing it once you actually saw it, because it created like such a like very memorable growl, like like a real voice would never come out of that crisp in real life. But you accept it for what it was. And because Roger Jackson is very good at the Ghostface voice. And
then, as we alluded to, that Sydney should probably have some PTSD. She is actually secluded in the woods and has a lock on her door, a security lock. She has a golden retriever, I guess, as a dog to keep her away from everyone. And then she works for like a abuse hotline, but uses a different name, has a completely different name when she calls in and everything. So she is doing her best to live off the grid. And you find out that at the deaths, because then one of the actors, because they're making a Stab 3, which is the first movie that's not based on the killings. It's Stab 3: Return to Woodsboro, that they're starting to kill the actors and the actresses in the order that they would die in the movie. Cotton was the first one to die. Then Jenny McCarthy's character, who's basically a glorified cameo, is killed. And at all the deaths, there's a picture of Maureen Prescott, Sid's mom, from there, but they can't figure out like when it was taken or anything. So, everyone gets back together. You have a pretty funny Jay and Silent Bob cameo, which proves that this is a tonal shift in the movie where they call Gail Weathers, who has horrible bangs in this movie, they call her Connie Chung, and she gives them the finger, which I enjoyed as a Kevin Smith fan. And then we get the rules of the trilogy, which do you know if these, Scott, do you know if these rules were made up for a trilogy, or if it's what we expected, since you're big into horror movies?
Something tells me that these were made up. I think because it all depends. I suppose it all depends on how long a movie franchise is supposed to go. If this is the end, it depends how you want it to end. Do you want a happy ending with our hero dying or not dying? That's pretty much the only thing. Otherwise, I don't think I've ever heard of like trilogy rules. I'll be honest. That's the first time I had ever heard of it when I saw this movie.
And that was in the trailer too. A snippet of Randy's, convenient plot, another convenient plot device, was in the trailer.
It's very pushed in.
Yeah, this is
Definitely
a lot of conveniences happen in this movie.
Yeah.
I think. The Jenny McCarthy thing, that was cool at the time. I mean, the killer had to wait an insane amount of time, though, in that prop costume room, now, just to get her in there. But, I was not a fan of the different voice modulations in this movie. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. So the rules for a trilogy, it's unexpected backstory. You go back to the beginning and reveal truths. Killer that is superhuman. Anyone can die. And past will come back to bite you in the ass. Which, with the unexpected backstory, goes back to the beginning and past will bite you in the ass. That's saying the same thing 3 different times, in my opinion.
Yes.
But that's what he had. And the anyone can die thing is pretty important because I don't know if this was marketed as this is the end of the series or not. So, it puts doubt in there that maybe Gail, Dewey, or Sydney can actually die. And I did miss, I missed this part, but they had a bunch of actors that were supposed to be in the movie, and they got a little too cute for my opinion. Like, one of the girls' names was Tom Prince, and there was an Angelina Aniston, I believe.
Tyler.
Angelina
Tyler.
Yeah, so I think they got a little too cute with look how on the nose we can be with being the meta part. But
Jennifer Jolie.
Yeah, Jennifer Jolie, which is pretty ironic considering that Brad Pitt then left Jennifer Aniston for Angelina Jolie.
Left the first name and married the last name.
Yeah.
It's also very weird that they seemingly are on good terms, because I was shocked when they both turned up in that live read for Fast Times. Did you see that one? All those celebrities that came together to do a live read of the Fast Times script.
Oh yeah, and Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt were involved. I've heard they're on good terms anyway, since him and Angelina broke up.
So, I guess Shia LaBeouf stole the show as a. I forgot the stoner.
Spicoli.
Spicoli, yes. Sean Penn's hosting the thing, but Shia LaBeouf Spicoli. I thought it was very funny.
And there was a big. They do a pretty good job of wiping out the actors that don't really mean anything pretty quick. They do in a big explosion. They killed the Tom Prince character who was Dewey, and in all the murder scenes is still the Maureen Prescott picture. And this causes Sydney comes and they watch the Randy video. At this point, you're not seeing Sydney a lot in this movie. It seems to be more Gail and Dewey centered. What did you feel about that, Andy? That it seems to take away from our final girl and seems to make us follow them more, Gail and Dewey more. Yeah,
I wasn't a big fan of it. I mean, the whole Sydney isolation thing, and then she comes back. It was funny. I'm watching this, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Bud from the Cosby Show. Oh my god, it's Putty from Seinfeld. So, and that other cop too, the Great Value Ben Stiller. I was kind of hoping he was going to die, but he doesn't in this movie. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was kind of. I mean, Gail had lost her edge a bit by now. I mean, I thought Parker Posey was tremendous though, as Jennifer. The Gail Weathers. I mean, that scene where they go down to the archives and interact with Carrie Fisher, she is great in this 5 minutes, and she's better than half the other actors in the movie. It was so great. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the whole Sydney is, Laura from, Northern California, wherever the hell it was supposed to be. Yeah, I kind of, they had to figure out a way to not have her and get her dragged back in. So,
And also the reason why Sydney isn't seen a lot in this movie is that I guess she had signed a sweet contract where she was only on set for 24 days.
Oh.
So, I mean, I guess get it if you can, but if that's supposed to be your main character, I think that takes away from it. And we had also met this director named Roman, who's Scott Foley, and Milton, who's the producer on the movie and all the Stab films. And Roman thinks the killer's after him because one of his awards got destroyed, but it was destroyed by Jenny McCarthy's character while she was supposedly waiting for him. But then they found out that Maureen Prescott had actually came to Hollywood and was an actress called Rena Reynolds. And at this point, they confront Milton, and Milton admits to throwing sex parties that Rita attended, and then it is heavily implied that she is raped, which it's pretty crazy since this movie came out in 2000, and in the past couple of years with all the stuff that's been alleged with Harvey Weinstein. It seems
the
like
producer of this film.
Yeah, it was an Miramax film.
It definitely seems little meta that they snuck that in there, but to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of this movie, but just because like it seems they're trying to do too many things at once. Like they're always trying to joke around and everything. And for the big final Act 3, there's a party at Milton's for Roman's birthday, and all the actors and actresses that don't really matter. Like there's a fake Sydney that you thought was all prim and proper, but she's like, I did not have sex with Milton just to die here, and then she's dispatched pretty quick. And then Parker Posey's character, the fake Gale, gets killed. So we're just down to our original 3. Like that. Did you guys find any memorable kills with this? With any of these? Basically just like they're the red shirts in Star Trek for you, Scott. I hope I said that correctly.
That's fantastic, Mr. Shifflett. Well played, sir. Yeah, a lot of these kills were I think they were rushed to get them out of the way so we can get to the good stuff. I feel like this whole movie was leading up to the last, 25 minutes. And there was a lot of faceless characters in this one. Kind of like there were a lot of faceless characters in... I equate this movie to Halloween 5, because if you watch Halloween 5, there are a lot of faceless people in that movie that just get killed because they're there and need to die. I feel the same way about this one, actually. I didn't really catch any memorable deaths, to be honest with you, in this one. Not like the first 2.
Yeah. Andy, did you have anything with that?
Yeah, I thought, the Angelina kill was okay. I mean, I almost thought she could have been one of the killers, though. Because they do a little, red herring with her, with the scream mask, in the bathroom at the studio. I mean, Emily Mortimer is a great actress. I don't think she was used to her full potential here. I mean, the Tyler kill was pretty brutal. I mean, he gets killed in a similar way Cece does in Scream 2, where he gets, stabbed or whatever and put through glass, and he gets thrown out onto the, the pool patio. I mean, the Jennifer kill was pretty cool too, I think, where she goes through the, the mirror and all that. I kind of, I don't know. I sort of, though, was, for a little while, was expecting her to survive and maybe Gail to get killed instead. And maybe she, replaces her going forward, but that was not to be. But, Eric, you had some thoughts, I thought I heard.
Yeah, it took mine with Tyson, where he gets the little rug pulled out from him, and he does that crazy flip, and pretty much lands on his neck. And then it's just the overkill from there. And his body's just laying out by that pool for the rest of the movie. Yeah. It sucked that Parker Posey died. She was very entertaining. I thought she was one of the more bright spots of the movie, for sure.
And also, I hadn't mentioned this, but you find out that Roman had been killed. Parker Posey's character had seen that. And then this is one of the dumbest scenes in movie history, and I want you guys' opinion on it. So the killer and Gale end up at the bottom of the steps, and then Dewey comes up, and Gale's like, "Help, help!" And the killer wakes up and throws the knife at him to like take him out, and Dewey doesn't even move. And instead of the knife stabbing him in the head, which would have been a great kill and a great way to take him out, he gets hit by the end of the butt of the knife and falls down the steps. It's like slapstick comedy at that point for me. Every time I see it, it just infuriates me.
In my notes, I have "really" with a question mark. Dewey gets hit in the head, got knocked out by the butt of a knife. Yeah, that was kind of ridiculous. It's like hearing like a bong. Like if somebody gets hit in the head with like something metal, bong like that. It was. They took some liberties in this movie.
Yeah, I thought we were done with picking on Dewey being dopey, and clearly not, because that was something you might have seen in the first movie, but at this point, I think Dewey should have been taken more seriously, and that was stupid, to be honest.
Yeah, it just took me out of it. Like it's like the dumbing down of characters. Like even when the Parker Posey scene, like you can see like she's like hitting on the glass, and Dewey shoots every damn window except the one where she was at to do anything. But then the killer calls Sydney and asks her to come to the house, which this is a big plot hole here. How does she know how to get there? She's only been here for like 10 minutes of film time, and how does she know to go to Milton's house? I'm glad they gave someone a different chance to write this script, but it is not good. Just like this whole final act, I had tons of issues with. Like, and then like Sydney gets there and shoots the killer in the chest, and of course killer just disappears. And then Kincaid, played by Patrick Dempsey, whose character is pretty flat, gets attacked by the killer, who I thought he was the killer at first. I'm not going to lie. Kincaid was the killer, or one of the killers. And then Sydney finds an empty movie screening, and finds home videos of Sydney. And before we reveal the killer, if you guys can remember back, who did you guys think the killer was before? Eric, I'll lead with you.
I don't know. I wasn't really thinking too hard about this one. I was just sort of just enjoying the ride at this point. This was the only one of the franchise I actually saw in theaters when it opened up in 2000. So I was just like, turn my brain off and just let it flow.
What about you, Andy?
They were definitely setting up for Patrick Dempsey's character to be thought of as the killer, because he's kind of obsessed with Hollywood and with the movie industry. Also, John Milton was I think that was the name, right? John Milton, or was it?
Yes.
Yeah. He was being set up, and Lance Hendrickson, great actor,
yes,
was because he was kind of like the sleazeball producer, I think, and he was trying to close up some loose ends with the whole thing. Once we kind of learn about Maureen Prescott's past a little bit as it comes back to her, so that's definitely who you were leading to, because unlike this was you don't see somebody get killed who you think is dead. You don't see it, but it comes off very real, convincing that person is dead already.
I agree. Scott, what do you think with this?
Part of me did think it was Milton, because first of all, Lance Hendrickson's always a great bad guy. But I also kind of went with Eric's philosophy of I'm just going to roll with this and see where it goes, because I'm not quite sure. It's very vague. I also wasn't sure if we were going to get two killers again, and we were running out of people in the movie, so I wasn't sure. I'm not going to lie, wasn't sure. I thought it was Milton until we found out what happened. But everybody else bid it to the point where they're running out of people. We're running out of suspects. So I wasn't sure. Patrick Dempsey seemed like a good one, but I also or the goofy, what you guys called him. The actor's name is Josh Payas, or so. What was it? You, Scott, that called him Great Value Ben Stiller.
That was me. Yeah, he was a dick. I wanted to see him die.
He would have been a good killer, but he wasn't in this enough to matter. Yeah. So who knows? I'm going to kind of go with Eric on this one. I think I just kind of rolled with it and saw just to see what happens.
So then, drum roll please. The killer is revealed to be Roman, who is Sydney's brother. One of the things I have issue with this is they literally have 0 scenes together. Now, if that's because, Neb Campbell had a Hulk Hogan 1999 WCW deal, then, that's they should have figured something out with that. And then going back to what Randy had said, you find out Roman was the mastermind of the killing of Marine and of getting Billy and Stu to commit all the murders, because you find out that Milton and I guess other Hollywood people had raped Marine, and actually Milton does have the best line of this. He said, "I'll give you final cut," and Roman said, "I already have it," and that's when he kills Milton. So that might be the best kill of the whole movie. The little double entendre right there. But then, and Roman planned his master plan to get away from this with, obviously he didn't follow what happened with Billy, was that he was going to pin all this on Sydney with the talkback thing from Home Alone 2, saying it's Sydney's voice saying, I know what happened, I'm going to come get you. So, Roman and Sydney have this fight, and then, Sydney kills Roman, but then Dewey and Gale come in, and finally Dewey has another fuck up. I guess he has CTE from that knife hitting him in the head, because he shoots Roman 6 times in the chest, and then Sydney's like, aim for his head, and he finally shoots him in the head as the final jump scare. And then the final shot of the movie is Dewey proposing to Gale, and then Sydney's with Kincaid, who's obsessed with her, and she's no longer a shut-in. Thankfully, a Scream 4 came out, because if this was the last movie, it went down on a sour note for me. What did you guys think of the movie as a whole? As you can tell, I am not the biggest fan of this movie. I'll leave with you, Andy.
I thought it was okay. I mean, it was nowhere near 2 or the first one. Yeah, I wasn't fond of the way what we thought the franchise had ended with at the time. I mean, one question is though, how come there was only one killer? Why didn't Roman have help? I mean, it's quite a feat to commit all these murders by yourself, as we found out, and, because you kind of have to be in 2 places at one time, and and you have to, you can't do it alone. I mean, it just goes to show the lengths that they have to go through. I mean, I'm not a big Scott Foley fan either, so I was, kind of happy to see him to go. But I did like that they kind of connected all 3 movies and made a clear. It was all about, Maureen and her, mistake abandoning Roman. They really didn't go into what happened to Roman after Maureen had him. If you went out for adoption, that's a lot of backstory to an exposition you have to reveal, and they didn't go there. But yeah, it was definitely a step down in the franchise.
And especially after having 2 solid movies this, the holes really show with this one.
Yeah.
Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a little much, trying to tie it all back into the first movie that, he's the director, he directs people to do what he wants. It's just not it's not that good. We're pointing out a very big logic hole. I don't know why they even bothered putting in the movie where when he fakes his death for Gale to find, she literally checks his pulse. Like how you fake your pulse?
Well, that was fake. That was fake Gale. I was calling her faux Gale the whole time, and I just chalked it up to she wasn't that bright.
I thought that was real Gale.
No, because they had teamed up together to go search for the house to find the mystery movie theater where they used to throw the parties, which Sydney then finds within 30 seconds of being in the house.
Yeah. Well, I guess he'd want her to find it since that's where he has big reveal.
Yeah.
So he wanted to make it easy. Yeah, it just I don't know, it's a lot. It's certainly a drop down of the first two movies, but certainly at this point they're pretty much telling you they're not going to kill off any of the main three. Like if you don't actually take that last step, like at least kill one of them, like what's the point?
I agree, and we'll talk about that in the next film. Scott, what did you think of the Scream 3?
I'm gonna kind of turn a different curve with you guys. I actually didn't mind it. I liked it. I've always been a sucker for attention to detail. So when the reveal came and Roman was her kind of bastard brother or whatever, I was like, I kind of like this. I love attention to detail. So more detail, the better for me. So I'm probably the opposite of you guys in that. If you're gonna tie them all together. I'm fine with that. And I have to say I didn't mind the ending when everybody's in the house and Sydney walks in, and the door creeps open on its own and she turns and looks and she goes, no big deal, it's over, and then walks away. If that was the last, I'll be honest with you guys, I've got to disagree. If that was the last shot of the trilogy and the last shot, I was okay. I was okay with it. I actually liked that. It was kind of a very definitive ending for me. I'm gonna have more issues with this next one, but I was okay with it. I understand that they may have done more than they needed to, and they kind of overloaded it, like movie within a movie. That I think they went a little much on that. Shoehorning Jamie Kennedy's weird head back into this movie, probably was unnecessary. I don't think we needed quote trilogy rules anymore, but this movie definitely took the fun, the satire factor more than the horror factor till Roman's revealed. And I gotta be honest, the Roman Sydney fight is actually pretty good. It reminds me a lot of, and I keep bringing this back, it reminds me of Jamie Lee and Michael in Halloween H2O, where Jamie Lee's just had enough of his bullshit and all of this, and fuck this, I'm going to fight and win. And that's what Sydney did. She prepared herself to go to war with whoever this Ghostface was and to just end this. And I thought it was a great fight down in that room. So I really didn't mind the movie at all. I thought the Jenny McCarthy cameo was kind of there as much as it really wasn't a cameo. She was in it for 20 minutes. A cameo was like 20 seconds. So I didn't mind it. Was it better? Was it as good as the first two? No, but I didn't mind it. And I thought it ended the trilogy on a high note. It did overload the info, but Wes Craven wanted to be, diligent, I suppose. But my issue was the next movie because I thought that everything could have ended here and we could have moved on. We could have done something else. I don't think a fourth one was needed, but we'll get more into that in a minute.
I did like that fake Woodsboro set that they had at the movie in the movie
it was
studio.
impressive.
That was pretty cool.
It was impressive.
And it kind of led to some flashbacks of Sydney, which was fun.
So before we go to the fourth one, I in my research for this, I found that one of the plans was to have a second killer, and it would be the fake Cindy would be the killer. Mm-hmm. Would be the second killer, and that she went to school with Sydney and was obsessed with her, which you sort of see in a character in the fourth movie, which we'll get to. And then the second one, this was confirmed by Matthew Lillard himself, and I think might be true because of what I'll get to, was that the third movie was going to be Stu doing all the killings behind bars, and that he would have accomplices doing all the kills, and you would find out that he's been pulling the strings behind bars. And the reason why I believe this is true is because Kevin Williamson went to create a show for Fox called The Following, which came out in the early 2000 teens, where a serial killer is committing crimes behind bars by having his followers do the crimes.
Yeah.
So I think that would have been an interesting twist on it. I'm not sure how they would have, killed Stu, but I think it would have been interesting.
Oh, there's still explain Stu was still alive.
Yes, and that he wasn't electrocuted.
Yeah, and there was no mention of that in Scream 2.
Yep. All right, so that will bring us to Scream 4, which came out in 2011. This is one I saw opening night at midnight. It returns all the main characters, all the big three: Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Neve Campbell. Written by Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven, directed. And and it's joined by Emma Roberts. She plays Sydney's niece Jill.
Cousin.
And then cousin. No, I thought it was.
No, she's her cousin. Yeah,
cousin. And then one of the Culkins. I wanted to call him Rory, but I believe it's Kieran.
No, it's Rory.
It is Rory.
Yeah.
I get them all. They all look the same, little pale vampires. So
You are dead on, sir.
I love Succession, but it's just pale vampire. And then Anthony Anderson's in it. Adam Brody. Hayden Panettiere. I'll say that name right. Eventually, Allison. Yes, thank you. Allison Brie, Marley Shelton. So the movie, I thought the third one was pretty meta. The fourth one starts off pretty meta with you seeing that the Stab franchise has moved on to 7 movies, and you get a bunch of fake kills at the very beginning with with a bunch of big name stars. Anna Paquin has a cameo. Lucy Hale, Kristen Bell shows up, and they all are killed within the movie. As you see it watching the movie, just how the movies have went on and everything. And then Amy Teagarden, who was in Friday Night Lights as Julie, she is actually killed. It's actual one that happens. It takes place in Woodsboro. Little fun fact, she was annoying in Friday Night Lights, which is my favorite TV show, and when she got killed, I stood up and clapped. Keep in mind, this is the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Oh, because she was Coach's daughter. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and she was super annoying in Friday Night Lights, so I stood up and was clapping, and my friends were like, "What? Sit down. What are you doing?" But so what did you think of Scream 4? Do you think there should have been a Scream 4? Scott, I think I already know your answer, so I'm going to lead off with you.
No, there should not have been a Scream 4. This movie was absolutely unnecessary. There was no need to stretch this. What was going on in 11 years that would provoke Wes Craven to have to do this, to do another one? I don't know if he was trying to make this his new nightmare and Scream 3 was Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare, and he felt he needed to retie the bow. But I don't think it was really necessary. I don't know what more of Sydney's past we need to bleed dry. I didn't get it. Having said that, the byplay between Kristen Bell and Anna Paquin is my favorite part of this movie, because you got these two clearly established stars. I don't think this is 90.
No, this is 2011.
This is 2011. So 2011. So I'm trying to think if
True Blood's on the air. It's season 4.
Yeah, so she was already sucky. So she's pretty hot too at that point. Although I did like her in Almost Famous. She might be my favorite in Almost Famous. It was funny, and very young Kristen Bell, pretty funny. Another 90210 callback, Shanae Grimes.
Yes.
Even though it was faux 0210, what a lot of people call it. Faux 210. But Sinead Grimes was in it. She was also a Tim Capel will love this callback. She was also a Degrassi alum, so he'll be very proud when I mention that. Those in the beginning were funny, and then we finally get to the real deaths, which is Coach Taylor's daughter and the other one. But for the most part, I don't get why we needed this. I really don't. I don't get why we needed it. Really, we needed Woodsboro again, and we got to drum up poor Sydney again. And I don't get it. I don't think, what more could we bleed dry out of the Sidney Prescott story? I think it was covered perfectly fine in 3 movies. No need for this one.
All right. Eric, what do you think? Do you think a 4th movie was needed?
No, not at all. It I guess it's trying to kind of play into the reboot trend of the 2000s, because that was certainly a big thing of rebooting movies, but it's also like continuing its own story. It's kind of got that, not completely, it's kind of like Dream Warriors vibe, like where you got some of the original cast, but you have these new characters involved as well. But the intention of that movie is like to pass the baton. And obviously that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
I mean, 3 stars of this film. Yeah. No, I just felt it was completely unnecessary. It just like everyone's just doing it because it's a recognizable franchise and it'll probably make a little bit of money. That's pretty much it. So I was, and I didn't enjoy the 2 fake out at the beginning. I really didn't like that at all. Stars with Stab 7, Stab 6, or whatever it was. Yeah. So, not a good note to start on.
Andy, what did you think? Did you think a 4th Scream was needed?
Oh, I don't know if it was necessarily needed, but I mean, I actually like this better than Scream 3. And, I mean, I enjoyed the beginning. I thought it was fun. I mean, Lucy Hale was pretty big at the time with, I think Pretty Little Liars was going, and you had Sinead Grimes, and then, yeah, the best part was the Anna Paquin and Kristen Bell one, because they were both, I mean, I think Veronica Mars had already wrapped up by then, and yeah, it was fun. I mean, I had no idea who Amy Teagarg, and because I didn't watch Friday Night Lights, so I had no idea who those 2 girls were that actually get killed. But you know, and poor Sydney. I mean, Sydney was, as we learned, is an author, and she's basically replaced Gail as like the most popular, you know, author about the subject. And I mean, yeah, it was one of those like, do we need it? No, not necessarily, but I mean, I still enjoyed the movie regardless.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it. I felt it was nice to come back to like see these characters again, because after, as you could tell from my hate for the 3rd one, I was like, oh, let's see if we can get some more story out of this. So I was looking forward to it. And then you meet Jill, which, like we said, was Sydney's cousin. And then we meet Trevor, which is Jill's ex-boyfriend, Kirby, who is Jill's best friend. And they have 2 Randys in this. One's Robbie Mercer and another one Charlie. And then Olivia, who is Jill's friend. And we see that Sydney's coming back to Woodsboro for having a book out, and she has a publicist played by Allison Brie. Allison Brie. I just lost her name. I wanted to call her Annie from Community. So, you know, it's the anniversary of the Woodsboro murders. It seems like a perfect recipe for all this to come back. One thing I did enjoy with this is, like, you see that Sid and Dewey see each other, and it's like a brother and sister relationship that they have with each other. And, like, you know, you would think after having all these near-death experiences, everyone would be tight, but that doesn't seem to be the case, which is one thing I enjoy is Sydney is still kind of icy to Gail after all these years. So it's a nice little byplay, except for this time she didn't hit her, which she hit her the first 2 times she saw her in the first 2 movies. So what did you guys think of these new characters? Do you think they were warranted, or did you not really care? They seemed, in my opinion, more fleshed out than the ones in Scream 3. Andy, what did you think?
Well, I mean, I thought Robbie was super annoying, first of all. Trevor was, you know, let's get, you know, cute boyfriend out of the closet or whatever. Let's get him and just it could have been anybody in that part. It didn't really matter who that was. I mean, I like Hayden Panettiere. I think she's a good actress, and she was has the ability to be a smart ass and be she was the cheerleader. Come on, save the cheerleader, save the world. Olivia was a red shirt. I actually wrote that in my notes. I know we mentioned that earlier, but she was definitely, you could tell, because you're like, okay, I know who that is, but I have no idea who that actress is. She's dying first, kind of thing. Alison Brie, I didn't know her at the time because I hadn't seen her in much when I did see this movie the first time. So she didn't resonate with me. I thought she was fine. I thought she was a nice Gail wannabe. Meanwhile, Gail's moving into trying to be a MILF in this movie. But I did like it, the whole cinema club, and they were kind of trying to buy off the times with the whole, you got to go on the web and you got to do this, blah, 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 which, excuse me, show that how outdated some of our lead characters were.
Yeah, especially with Gail asking to work with Charlie and Ronnie Mercer to help her because she couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. Because Ronnie is like streaming with like a GoPro at the time and uploading everything. Scott, what did you think of these new characters?
Be honest with you, I didn't like any of them. I thought they were all kind of faceless, and I didn't think they had that same kind of gravitas or pathos that the characters, like even in the first one and the second one, did. I just, as I was watching the movie and I'm seeing these characters, I'm like, who are they? Sydney's got a cousin who 15 years earlier we didn't even like think of, which means 15 years earlier she'd have been 15 years earlier when the first Scream happened, she technically would have been like 2. So it just made, I don't know why everybody's so emotional about it. And I just thought they didn't have the same identity. I didn't connect with them like I did with the cast in the first one, when pretty much it's the same movie, just not as good.
Eric, what do you think, or do you agree with Scott?
A little bit. Just a little bit. I just kind of like the actors more for this than the third movie. I mean, I like Hayden Panettiere and Culkin and such. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was gonna. I don't know. It's just the whole movie itself is just kind of a mess. Like, really doesn't get going until like its third act. Like when you finally reveal the killers, like at least it's a little something. So I want to know how Robbie affords all that bandwidth for his streaming, because he says he does it all day. 2011.
Good point.
Yeah, I would hate to see that Verizon bill.
Yeah.
You also meet Deputy Judy, who's played by Marley Shelton, who at this point somehow Dewey is the sheriff of police at Woodsboro. I guess they let anyone become, because in the third movie he was the technical assistant for the Stab 3 movie, but with this one he's moved back to Woodsboro and is the sheriff. But they have Anthony Anderson and Adam Brody in it, and I think they're just wasted in this movie. But I will say,
for sure.
I will say when Olivia is killed, as Andy referred to her as the red shirt, that does have a great line, because the killer calls Kirby, Hayden's character, and says, I'm in a closet, and she opens the closet doors and it's like, you're not there. And he goes, I never said I was in your closet, and then kills Olivia, which I thought was a really cool scene.
I agree. I will say that. I agree.
And there's just blood everywhere. Like they hit an artery on that one. And then like one thing that I enjoy is that they all call Sydney the Grim Reaper or the Angel of Death, which, to be honest, is really true.
Well, true.
Yeah. And I love seeing Sydney more in this movie. And the killer attacks Jill and Sydney after the Olivia murder because they go over and tape and try to stop the killer, even though there's cops outside. It's like these howdy doody cops are terrible.
Not as bad as Halloween 5 cops. Scott knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, God, yes. I agree with that, absolutely.
And then, we get some ancillary characters killed off. Rebecca, who's played by Alison Brie, is killed off. She has a pretty cool scene where Dewey's doing a press conference and says, we have some leads, and then they throw her off the balcony of the hospital, and she lands on the television, van.
Yeah, you can't run in those heels. Come on.
Yeah. So then they have like a cinema club holds a meeting for their Stabathon that they do, and Sydney and Gail are there, and Charlie says the killer should film the killings, to make their own movie, and they sort of make fun of themselves with this, as they say like it's a reboot sequel-esque movie, which is basically what this is, because I don't know about you guys, but I remember the marketing being like, this is going to start a new trilogy of movies with the Scream movies.
It was a requel, they called it.
Yeah, a requel. And they said the only way to survive is to be gay. That's what they said, which, looking back, it's not a great joke to make, even 9 years ago. As Eric and Scott said, nothing really happens until, like, as much as I enjoy this movie, like, it just seems like everything's more window dressing until the final act. It's like they hold a Stabathon. Gail gets attacked by the killer, and she gets stabbed. And I did like the little callback to at the Stabathon. Gail's holding, like, put the Scream mask on and is putting cameras everywhere, which was a callback to the first movie where she was putting cameras up. Yeah, what do you guys think of this middle part? I remember liking it when I saw it in theaters, but on the rewatch, I was like, they could have just chopped off 30 minutes of it.
I agree. I thought it went a little long. I understood the timestamp of it, but it did drag a little.
Yeah, it does. That scene too from the Stabathon where Gail takes off the Scream mask. That's in the trailer too, which was trying to going in, they were trying to lead you to suspect her, I guess, where she was trying to reclaim her glory because Sydney basically stole her spot as the author, I guess, that everybody wanted to talk to. But it did drag a little bit. I mean, you have, this movie's Randy, which was made into two characters. I thought, actually, they should have had Randy's sister in this movie after she had just showed up randomly in Scream 3 and had her killed. Because that would have been, the killer's trying to cut a loose end. But, how would they have known about that have happened, because they weren't even there at the time. But I thought that could have been a good addition.
So I'm skipping ahead because not much happens. Sydney's aunt gets
Anthony
killed.
Anderson killed. That's something that happens.
Yeah, Anthony Anderson and Adam Brody get killed, which they were wasted in this movie.
But that apparently that kill, Anthony Anderson, that one was apparently based on something that happened in real life.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
All right, well, yeah. Okay, so here you go. So I've seen this movie plenty of times, but my girlfriend watched it with me, who's a nurse. So watching a horror movie with a nurse sometimes can kind of take some of the wind out of the sails, so to speak. And she was like, the Adam Brody kill was fine because he gets it in the back probably through, a crucial vein or artery, whatever. But Anthony Anderson gets killed right in the head, like stabbed right in the forehead, which according to her said that you wouldn't die, you'd lose a lot of blood, but that wouldn't kill you like the way it killed him eventually. But it was gnarly though to see the way he got killed though, like the blood coming down and She was very suspicious of Detective Judy the entire movie, so that's kind of where they were leading you, I think, part of the way in this movie.
For sure.
Yeah. That the cop Judy is real suspicious. She seems to have taken over, as I mentioned in the third movie, where the fake Sydney was supposed to have went to school with Sydney and was obsessed with her. And you get a scene similar to that where Judy's talking to Sydney and was like, "Hey, do you remember high school third period? We sat beside each other," and Sydney's like, "No, weirdo, that was 15 years ago." And she's like, we were in a play together. And it's like, listen, I can't tell you what I ate yesterday, so I'm not going to remember this. So Jill's mom gets killed. Jill seems to be like in the role of the new Sydney, where her friends are getting picked off, her mom is killed, and her ex-boyfriend looks real suspicious. They're partying at Kirby's house after the cops busted up the Stabathon, and at Kirby's house it's Jill, Ronnie, Charlie, and Kirby. And then Trevor shows up and claims that Jill texted him to show up, and Jill's like, no, I didn't. So he just shows up randomly. And, he's looking real suspicious right now. And then...
I love Kirby.
Sorry.
Kirby just fucking hates him. She's like, why are you here? Get out of my house.
And, he just, still stays like a weirdo. It's like, dude, if someone told me to leave, I would leave. But, So, sorry, the person's name was Robbie, not Ronnie. But, Randy Hat, 0.5, gets killed because he's drunk wandering around while streaming, and he gets killed on camera. And then Kirby and Charlie make out, but Trevor comes in and interrupts.
Cock block.
Yeah, exactly. And then, as we mentioned before, with the chase scene, Sydney shows up, and there's a nice chase scene that goes through the house. So, we're starting to pick up the speed and everything. And then Kirby and Sydney are hiding, and Charlie pounds on the door to be let in, but Kirby says no. Then Charlie is attacked, and they play the original game with Kirby from the first one of who was, to save his life. Kirby seems to save his life, and that's when we're revealed to one of the first killers, which is Charlie. He stabs Kirby with the response, I liked you for 4 years, and you finally give me a chance, which, come on, bro. That's a little absurd. But what did you, Scott? What did you think of Charlie being one of the killers? Did you peg him as one of the killers from the beginning?
No, I didn't. I got to be honest with you. As I was watching this, I didn't know who to peg as the killer. I didn't. I was kind of lost in that aspect. I wasn't sure who they were going to pick. But no, I did not suspect Charlie as the killer. I was kind of spitballing who would. So yeah, I was a little off on that one. I wasn't sure who it was going to be, but I did not expect Charlie. No.
And then the real shocker happens within the same scene. Charlie attacks Sydney. Sydney gets away, but then she runs and is stabbed by her cousin Jill. Jill and Charlie are the killers. They're going to blame Trevor for the murder. And I know, Scott and Eric, you guys didn't really like this, but I like her reasoning behind this was that she wanted to become famous, which I can see, like some crazy tween trying to murder people and be the heroine so she can become famous. Andy, what did you think of Sydney's own blood being the killer?
Oh, I actually really liked this. It was a surprise. Like I said, I watched it. My girlfriend who had watched it for the first time. She had no idea. I mean, she like a visible came out when it was revealed to be Jill. I mean, poor Mary McDonald. I'm trying to remember the actor's name.
McConnell.
In 2 scenes and gets a pretty brutal kill. I mean, through the mail slot, a knife right through the back of her head. I felt bad for her there. And then, but no, this was
I don't.
I mean,
she's taking a quick gig between TV gigs.
Yeah, but no, this was a good reveal, and it turns out that like Jill is probably the biggest whack job out of all the killers. After with the ensuing events that come after her reveal is gone. But yeah, the attention-seeking behavior, you can definitely feel that coming, and growing up in the shadow of Sydney, whatever her last name is. Yeah, Prescott. I had Alias on the brain with Scott Foley before. But no, yeah, I thought it was a good reveal.
Eric, what did you think of the reveal? Because I remember personally being in the theater, which to show that this movie did not make as much money as the predecessors. I remember still being like everyone's breath being taken away when it found out it was Jill that was the second killer. Eric, what did you think?
I thought it worked reasonably well enough. Like, it is an interesting take of like psycho teens and such, but like they look more like teens compared to like Billy and Stu in the first movie and such. And Emma Roberts, as shown like on American Horror Story, can play like a bitch. So I totally bought that. It just feels like very convenient. Like it's another like very close connection in Sydney. Like, him being her cousin and such. It just that's the only weird thing. It's like this movie could have been made really without the main three. Like you really wanted to go the full reboot option. So I don't know. It worked. I liked her planning like after the fact, like when it was all the reveal, like the steps she took to make herself seem like the heroine, like beating the shit out of herself.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Scott, what did you think of Jill being the second killer and the brains behind the operation? Obviously,
yeah. It's funny that I watched this after I watched all the seasons of American Horror Story, so I kind of have a retro because it makes sense because Emma Roberts is good as a psycho fucking nutjob bitch. So it did fit. Having said that, I thought the reasoning was pretty stupid. She was 2, right? She was 2. If you do the math, she was like 2 when all this shit happened in 1996. You know, and when the whole thing ended, she was like 4. I didn't understand the whole "I want to be famous" like that. I don't know. I thought that reasoning was lame. Having said that, I will say that she was the craziest. Next to maybe Scott Foley in the third one, she was the craziest of most of the last few killers. So I will say that, but the whole "I just want to be famous" is kind of lame. It fell flat for me. The reasoning, but the reveal was kind of cool, and I think Emma Roberts fits the role, but I thought the reasoning was kind of stupid.
All right. I will say, like, as we said, like, she says, "I don't need friends, I need fans," which, with everyone wanting to be Instagram famous or Twitter famous at the past couple of years, it kind of fits contemporarily. I'm not sure how it will age. But as Eric and Scott were mentioning before, Jill shows how crazy she is because she stabs herself by ramming a knife through her shoulder and then throws herself through the table and like headbutts a glass painting. It's just crazy. Yeah. And before she done that, she had killed Charlie, so it would be that Charlie and Trevor will be the ones that did all this. She did Trevor because it's alluded to a lot that she let Trevor take her virginity, and then he cheated on her, and then she killed Charlie. Yeah, she shot him in the dick and then in the head. That was pretty gruesome, just for all the men, because I was like, I never want that to happen. And then she kills Charlie so she can be the sole survivor, and because Charlie even says Randy gets the girl in this one. But obviously that's not the case. And then the cops show up finally. And I read that originally this is when the movie was going to end. Was going to end with Jill being taken out, and then with someone saying, "Oh, we got another live one in here," and that's how the movie was going to end, which would have made the fifth and sixth ones more action and thriller than horror. But I'm glad they did what they did, where Jill's taken to the hospital and she's getting her gift of being famous with all these reporters are trying to interview her while she's being taken in the hospital. And then she snitches on herself because she tells that, me and Gail will have matching wounds, which there's no reason why she should know that Gail has a matching wound of hers of being stabbed in the shoulder. Then Jill finds out that Sydney's still alive in the ICU, and then she goes up to kill her. And Scott, knowing how much you like Halloween, I thought of you with this one. Jill asks Sid if she's Michael fucking Myers and tries to strangle her. And then they fight in the hospital room. Dewey gets dumbed down again, which he definitely has a concussion because he gets just beat to death with a bedpan. Judy comes in and she saves Gail. You find out that she's just odd, not a killer. And then Sid electrocutes Jill with the paddles. And Sid tells Judy not to fuck with the original. And then Sid shoots Jill for the jump scare. Then you find out that Judy's alive. So as we've seen in the first 3 movies, it was a little bit of a different ending with you already knew who the killer was in the last 10 minutes. But they have a pretty decent fight scene. Because they use each other's wounds against them, like Jill like stabs, like puts her fingers in where Sydney's had been stabbed and everything. So Andy, what do you think of this final fight scene?
I mean, I enjoyed it. Again, let me reference my last viewing with my lovely girlfriend, who is a nurse and has been for 25 years, and I had to hear, okay, they're in the hospital, nobody hears this going on late at night when you could hear a pin drop. There's a metal bedpan, which they haven't had metal bedpans since, the 80s. And then, but she did say, though, the electrocution would have worked, with the paddles. Because, she's going, as the thing is going up and up, she's going, oh my God, it's going to kill her. Yeah, I thought it was really good. And I love the line, you have any last words? She goes, yeah, clear. And she's like, what? Clear. I thought that was pretty good. But, yeah, Jill was such a psycho.
Eric, what did you think?
Yeah, it's certainly a good ending, if nothing else. You would think enough that the paddles would kill someone. But, always go for a good gun death.
Yeah, you know they're dead then.
Yeah, sure.
Scott, what did you think?
I did like the Michael Myers reference. Very fucking cool. I have to say, Sydney's line to Jill before she zaps her brains was pretty awesome. I have to admit that was a good ending. It might have saved me from totally really trashing this movie, but the ending was pretty cool. I can't lie. And it makes me wonder how they were going to do. Well, we can get more into that when we wrap the movie up, but I enjoyed the whole putting a bow on it. Sydney's one tough bitch, I'll tell you. She's been beating around. I definitely equate her with Laurie Strode. I mean, she's put up with a ton of fucking shit in her life, and she's just gotten stronger and stronger, the character. So I like the ending. I thought it was great. And how do you miss Judy's head? Jesus, Jill, you suck. You can't shoot worth a shit. My God, you missed her head by a mile. Yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. I enjoyed the end a lot. I thought it capped off Sydney's journey. Even though I thought it should have been capped off at the third one, and we didn't need this extra epilogue, but it was good, and I enjoyed the end.
And before we get into the extra movie that we do with this, I will say that there has been a 5th movie announced, and the original 3 are coming back, as is Judy, and it's coming out, barring, with the pandemic and everything. It's currently scheduled to come out January 14th, 2022. Joining the cast is Jack Quaid, who is not only Meg Ryan and Dennis Quaid's son, he's also Huey and the Boys, which I can't recommend that show enough. Jenna Ortega, Dylan Minnette from 13 Reasons Why, Kyle Gallner, Mikey Madsen, Mason Gooden, a bunch of people I barely know anymore. But so for the 5th movie coming out, which Wes Craven will not be sadly directing this, since he's passed away a couple years ago, it's going to be directed by the guys that made the movie Ready or Not, which was a pretty good horror movie, and written by Guy Busick, who also wrote Ready or Not. And I think Kevin Williamson is helping out as well. So not going too far, I don't want us try to book the movie, but do you guys think that any of the big 3 bite it?
Yes. They have to. They have to.
I agree. I actually think all 3 will die. And they're going to die pretty quick. That's what I think. Just to set the stage that no one's safe, because they're basically like, Dewey probably should have been killed in Scream 2, if not or Scream 3. But they have Teflon on them. I think it will set the stage if one, but not all, but all three get killed. Scott, what do you think?
Well, if they're going to keep going, they're going to have to take some kind of turn, and eventually Sydney's going to have to bite it. Laurie did well in the second branch off the Halloween tree, because she obviously was killed off in Halloween Resurrection. What's her name? I can't think of her name in the fuck. Trying to think of her name in the. I can't even remember her. God damn it!
talking about Jamie Lloyd or
no, not Jamie. The other one. The fucking. Oh god damn it! Ellie Cornell's character.
yeah.
Rachel. Thank you, Rachel Carruthers. She gets killed in the fifth one. You know, she gets a scissors. So eventually Sydney's going to have to go. If you're going to continue this franchise and branch it off to different people, they're all going to have to die. I don't know if Wes Craven ever meant for that to happen, but I don't think there should be a fifth one anyway. Because if I didn't think there was a fourth, if I didn't think there should have been a fourth one, there certainly shouldn't be a fifth one. And it's now 11 years later. I mean, what are you doing at this point? You know, hasn't there been enough of Sydney's past to fucking pick at? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you're gonna do this again, do you start from scratch? Like, what do you do at this point? You know. So I'll go see it, but I'm maybe going in with low expectations is a good thing, because I don't know what to expect from this. So
well, I agree, Scott, because it's also being in the January death slot for movies.
Yes.
If you're a big movie fan, that's when people try to unload movies, and January is a death slot. But with them announcing it, hopefully, you know, it's not a bad movie. But
I mean, I enjoyed Ready or Not. I mean, when I first saw it, I was on it because I was expecting more horror than comedy, and it's actually the opposite. It's more. There's some gruesome kills in that movie, don't get me wrong, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, I've rewatched it a couple of times since it got on cable, and it's a fun thriller. I mean, I don't know if I'd call it horror per se, but yeah, I think they got to kill Dewey and Gail for sure. At least like early in the movie, maybe together. You know, maybe just end their story. You know, and then and Sydney's got to go probably like halfway through the movie. And also, they've talked about, though, that, you know, how we talked about how Stu died. Kirby, we don't see Kirby die. We see Kirby get stabbed, and, you know, Charlie's like, you know, it doesn't happen as fast as the movies. And there have been rumors that she will be in the next movie. So, I mean, I think they have to go in a different direction, though. They need a new protagonist to lead if they're going to keep going in the franchise.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So this, Eric, do you have anything to add?
Nope.
Succinct, I like that.
So this leads us to the last movie that we'll talk about tonight. And as Scott mentioned before, and so did Eric, and we all have, Scream really reignited the horror genre. And they had a bunch of knockoffs with, you know, Urban Legend, which somehow spawned 3 or 4 different movies, sequels. But another one was I Know What You Did Last Summer. This was also written by Kevin Williamson, so he was a busy boy as this came out in 1997. It stars Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Phillippe, Freddie Prinze Jr. To be honest, looking back, like, I remember watching this movie as a kid, and I was like, oh, it's decent. When I rewatched it for this was not a good movie. its plotting moves extremely slow, is more mystery than horror. Scott, what do you think?
There are too many pretty people in this movie. Way too many pretty people. This is not a horror movie. I don't know what the hell this is, but you just read off like 5 of the prettiest people of the late 90s, and you're like, this isn't real. This is fake. You know what I mean? I agree with you though. This is definitely a mystery. In fact, it's the extension. You know what this really is? It's the extension of one of the stories in the, I want to say, second Creep Show. I think it's the second one. I'm going to double check that before I say it with a vote of confidence. Is it the second one where she hits or she ignores the hitchhiker? Yeah, it's the second one. If you remember for those that have seen Creep Show 2, it's the last story where the woman has to run home, leaving her gigolo lover at her bungalow, and she hits a hitchhiker, and she pretty much takes off, and the hitchhiker pretty much chases her throughout the whole movie and ends up killing her. So, in my opinion, this movie... what's that?
Spoiler alert, I've never seen Creep Show.
Oh, my God. Well, it's...
Oh, you've had 35 years, Eric. All right, relax.
35 years.
I know.
Well, in Creep Show, all the bad guys die pretty much, so don't worry about it. This movie is pretty much that stretched out from 25 minutes to an hour and 50 something. So I thought it was a bit much, and there's just too many pretty people. Like, I felt like you need to have like your Jamie Kennedys with your oblong heads to have like a chance for it to be somewhat kind of balanced. To me, this is like 90210, Dawson's Creek, and One Tree Hill wrapped into a horror movie. You know, like, these people are too pretty to be in this movie. Not at all. You have no sympathy for any of them, to be honest with you. That's how I always felt when I saw it.
And even Sarah Michelle Gellar's sister, who they try to not make attractive, is Veronica Vaughn from Billy Madison, who's Bridget Wilson, who's married to Pete Sampras. So it's like,
yeah,
everyone's just like good looking in this movie. And Eric, what did you think of this movie?
It's a fairly good little teen thriller. This is definitely a movie I saw in theaters when it came out in '97. Very seminal because I certainly had a big Jennifer Love Hewitt crush, and obviously like Sarah Michelle for the buffiness. So it's not great. I think it's just kind of like a throwback to like those '80s slashers. We were trying like whodunit, like who's the killer and such. But it's certainly better than some of these Scream sequels we've been talking about, for sure.
Disagree on that. I think it's so much worse. It's like I judge a movie by how many times I pick up my phone or hit my remote to see how much longer it's in the movie. Within the first 25 minutes, I've picked up my phone, went through Twitter, and clicked the remote to see how much longer was in this movie. It's just not good. I'm skipping ahead right now, but the ending doesn't make sense at all. Where you find out that the premise is that these teenagers hit this person that was on a road, and they dumped the body, and then you find out that they hit another person, and they said you should have made sure the person was dead. But then the person who they hit was going to kill the guy that killed. It's just confusing. Scott, do you have anything to add for the ending?
Not particularly. I feel like it kind of steals from the first few minutes of the second Friday the 13th when Alice is in her place and the head's in the fridge and all that, and then she, what's his name, just comes out from behind it. It was okay, but not enough for me. I will say this: Scream 4 is better than this. I don't know if I'm really reaching, but I don't know. I just never really jumped on this like I did the others. Like I know that Kevin Williamson was trying to use that Scream piggyback and do a different kind of movie here, but I didn't fly for me. But the end was okay.
There's a lot of shoe leather to that ending, admittedly. No, the most memorable thing everyone knows is Jennifer Love Hewitt just screaming out, "What are you waiting for? Come on!"
Yeah, because they use that in Scary Movie, and
yes,
and then
There's a
watched.
Oh, great.
No, I was saying I watched this movie with my wife. She had never seen it, and I was like, "Trust me, I can just watch this by myself." But she wanted to watch it, and then I showed her. I was like, "Can you believe they made a sequel?" She goes, "Of course they did." I showed her the trailer on YouTube. She said, "This looks so bad." Which, go out of your way, guys, and check out this trailer. You see the whole movie with the whole minute and a half. But I just think, it's bad when I'm saying that former WWE writer Freddie Prinze Jr. is wasted in this movie. He's barely in the movie, but he's the character I care about the most in the movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, and Ryan Phillippe has some good lines, because after they may or may not have killed this person, it flashed forward a year, and you see that Jennifer Love Hewitt's character, who, when I was writing my notes down, I kept trying to call her Sydney. Her name's not Sydney, it's Julie. So that's how much they were trying to pattern the girl with brown hair, also from Party of Five, as the final girl. It just seemed like a retread. We always say the great value. This is like the Dollar Tree version of what they were trying to do with Scream.
That's great.
It's just, I just did not enjoy it. And then, but I will say, Ryan Phillippe's character, he's a dick the whole movie. Then right before they kill him, they try to get him show that he's a good guy. But when he sees Sydney and Sarah Michelle, it's not Sydney, Jennifer Love Hewitt and Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, he goes, "You look like shit that's been ran over twice." So I thought that was the best line of the movie. And when it's thrown away as a put down in the first 20 minutes, you're locked in for some stuff. The kills weren't even that good in this movie. He just uses a hook to kill people. It's not good at all. That's all I can say. It's just, I would see the first 4 movies that we talked about. I would stay away from this one. Or if you want to watch it on, I don't know, because you hate yourself.
You're not going to watch the sequel where they go to the Bahamas?
Absolutely not. I watched it once as a kid and was like, I'm never watching this again. I used to be deathly afraid of scary movies. That scary movie, the second one, did not scare me at all. Let's just put it like that. And I was 8 or 9 years old at the time.
Well,
so, Scott, do you have anything else to say about this movie?
No, I'm good.
Eric, do you have anything else?
I like seeing Johnny Galecki get hooked in the face. That was a fun bit.
Very true. Yeah, he shows up for maybe 5 minutes total, and is killed for no reason. It's not like he knew anything. But okay, whatever. But that'll bring an end to this podcast. Thank you so much, Scott, for being on.
Always a pleasure.
Would you like to plug anything before you go?
What do I always say, Andy? There's a lot of stuff.
I got a lot of shit. Go to the Place to Be Nation Wrestling Network.
Exactly. The Place to Be Wrestling Network has a ton of great stuff. You guys mentioned it in the plug. Follow me on Twitter at PTBPodfather. I always talk about fun stuff. That's all I got.
All right, thank you so much, Scott. We'll have to have you on again.
Absolutely.
Andy, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Well, yes, I do. Don't forget, go to PlaceToBeNation.com each and every day. All these great articles. And also, for all the feeds, we feature all the podcasts on the site. Pop Goes the Classics, the Disney series, is coming back. We've recorded a couple episodes, so look for those coming soon. That is me, Miranda, and Steve Riddle. Making Mount Rushmore, by the time you hear this, the latest episode is up, as we mentioned in the live read earlier. It is the greatest, the Mount Rushmores of 80s comedies and 80s action movies. Laugh-In Theater will be back soon. Making his return, a voice you have not heard in quite a bit. A guy we love here, one of the OGs of Place to Be Nation, Glenny Bunn. Glenn Butler's coming back to Laugh-In Theater. Love Glenn. We miss him dearly. I am so grateful that Glenn can fit Laugh-In Theater into his busy schedule. So we're going to be watching Robin Hood Men in Tights. It should be a lot of fun. Glenn is a great dude, and he makes the conversation. I can't wait to see where the conversation will go. Scott, you and I will be back very soon with D'Amato and Dr. G with Year and Pop, and check out Great Debate here and on the Wrestling Network. The last episodes on each feed featured the lads, the blokes, if you will, from Special Relations. A lot of fun, and there'll be a new evolution coming within the next month or so, and that's on the Wrestling Network. Oh, one more thing. Sorry. We kind of want to revitalize the family or the community, if you will, of Place to Be Nation. So please, if you are not a member of the Place to Be group on Facebook, go seek it out, find it, join up. We're having a lot of engagement. We're trying to increase. Lots of fun stuff already. Great conversations. Fun questions are being asked. Polls. Silly memes, or you can only pick one or two, or what's your this, that, or the other thing. So lots of fun conversations already have been starting over there. So if you're not a member of it, please join the Place to Be group on Facebook.
Thank you so much, Andy. And Eric, we'll end with you tonight. Do you have anything you need to plug?
No, not right now. I have been lacking on my horror movie watch outside of this program, so I'm going to try and pick that up the next 2 weeks. So I'm on Letterboxd, Eric Eells, EELLS. Not that hard to find, so I hope to be watching and logging probably right after we record.
And Eric, do you want to announce what next month's movie franchise will be?
Oh yes, I would very much like to. Thank you. We will be covering the Matrix trilogy. Trilogy at the moment, as I don't believe they started the fourth movie yet, but we will be covering, one of the biggest sci-fi franchises of the last 20 years. So it should be a lot of fun.
And our guest is
Matt Souza.
Right. Who hosts a very good live watch action movie podcast here on PlayStation Pop feed. So look for that coming mid to late November.
Yes, indeed. So this was a lot of fun tonight. I'm glad you picked this series, Scott.
Thank you. Yeah, it's near and dear to my heart.
Well done.
Thanks to everyone for being on. And I'm Scott Shifflett. I can be found on Twitter at Scott_Shifflett. And then for Andy, Eric, Scott, and myself, thank you and have a nice day.
Oh God.